to Mount Panorama, Bathurst, New South Wales in Australia. But before we get on with today's proceedings, we would like to pay tribute to the late William Marsh, a man who, just at the tender age of 27, passed away on the 22nd of March 2021. A well-loved and well-respected individual within this community, was open, honest and passionate about sim racing, saying that it was for everybody. Tributes today have been flooding out for this gentleman, who is a wonderful individual, and thoughts and prayers from us all here at the Sim Grid are with his family at this very difficult time. But we now are at the first part of what is going to be an epic 186 days. That's just over 26 weeks. We've got the best part of nearly 100 teams, sim racing teams comprising of over 350 drivers. We've got 84 hours, that's 5,040 minutes of racing action. 5 different races, 3 12-hour, 2 24-hour, 5 different circuits, 5 different countries, 3 different continents, 11 manufacturers represented, and with prizes worth in excess of $25,000 US. Welcome everyone to qualifying for the first round of the 2021. This is the second World Cup here, and it's powered by our good friends over at VCO. And also we have to thank AK Informatica for also coming on board. Alex Goldschmidt and Luke Rogers with you this evening for the roundabout the next 3 hours. Luke, Mount Panorama, it is the scene of something epic for 2021 here on the Sim Grid, wouldn't you agree?
Well, if you wanted to begin a series with the challenges, this is where you come. It tests every aspect of what it means to be a sim racer. You've got confidence in places like the cutting, you've got precision in places like the dipper, and a blind faith in corners like Skyline. It really is such a challenging track, but also it's a track that really puts on a spectacle. Last season in the Sim Grid World Cup, we had Kirill Antonov hunting down Moros's damaged Ferrari in the final stint, bringing down, I think it was a 46-second gap to the final few seconds as we neared the end of that 12-hour race to put on, I think, one of the best shows I've seen in sim racing. This track always delivers in races, and that's what we're going to get this weekend.
Yep, the 5 circuits here at Bathurst, then it's Spa-Francorchamps in middle of May for the first of 2 24 hours. Then we have Donington Park, Kyalami and the Nurburgring. So the countries will be Australia, Belgium, the United Kingdom, South Africa and Germany. 3 different continents, Oceania, Europe and Africa. A big thank you also to the sponsors of the Sim Grid World Cup, powered by VCO, of course. VCO, need no introduction. AK Informatica, and of course we can't forget about Coach Dave Academy and Thrustmaster as well. And realistically, this 6.213 kilometre circuit, it is fearsome. There are speeds approaching 280 kilometres an hour, and nearly half of the circuit is made up of the iconic mountain and Conrod Straights. We're getting very, very quickly towards what is going to be a fantastic next 3 hours here on the Sim Grid. But before we really get into the true feeling of the Sim Grid World Cup powered by VCO, let's go on a hot lap here at Mount Panorama. The Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo takes us around a lap of the 6.213 kilometre circuit here at Bathurst. Mount Panorama, the mountain, as we head into the left-hander at turn 1, Hell Corner. As we accelerate through the gears, on our way up Mountain Straight before the right-hand sweeper, Quarry Bend. Now up into 5th, pushing over 240 kilometres an hour. About to hit the rev limiter before going into the right-hander. Down to 3rd gear, allow the car to run as close to the wall as you dare on the left-hand side before the run through to the cutting. Down from 4th gear through this braking zone, down to 2nd, scrubbing off a lot of speed. Tight towards the wall on the exit and on the entrance. Through into Griffin's Mount before the real fast-paced drama of Mount Panorama unfolds before our very eyes. Through Reed Park, now down the dip. Through into Solomon, at 4th gear at 220 kilometres an hour. Now the run down towards McPhillamy. Again, another 4th gear corner. Through into Skyline, down the dip, very much like Paddock Hill at Brands Hatch. And then you've got a successive amount of corners. Skyline, the S's, a rapid succession of 6 corners before you go through towards the dipper. And then into the left-hander, first gear, 85 kph through Forest Elbow. Now punching the throttle towards the floor on this Mercedes as we head down the iconic Conrod Straight, which takes up nearly 2 kilometres of this 6.213 kilometre circuit, bouncing off the rev limiter, heading in towards the run towards the chase, turns 20, 21 and 22, 281 kilometres an hour before scrubbing off the speed down to second gear. That was over 170 kph taken off. One more corner remaining in the Mercedes. The left-hander turn 23. Murray's corner now negotiated, and it's the run towards the finish line here at Mount Panorama. Well, Mercedes is one manufacturer that has never won at Mount Panorama in the Liqui Moly 12 hours. However, we do need to have a conversation because there is a set of defending champions. So without further ado, let's bring in from GTWR Racing Team Giorgio Simonini, the team that actually secured 3 victories in the inaugural World Cup. And let's see if we can bring him in. So, good evening to GTWR's Giorgio Simonini. Good to have you with us, Giorgio. Obviously, 3 wins for the season last time out. You guys at GTWR, you're looking as one of the favourites in this very bumper grid here.
Thanks to everyone. Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity. It's going to be a really, really emotional night today for GTWR, since we have 5 teams in the split 1 and 1 in split 2. So coming here as defending champions is getting us in a position where we want to fight for the win again, and we'll try our best. Our enemies are really strong this year, and I really can't wait for the competition. And it's today, it's starting, so we can't wait for the qualifying, for the race. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that we've got to remember is that the team that you're running with this season, you've got Jordan Sheridan, Tobias Pfeffer as well, very, very strong trio. But Bathurst last season saw you guys take an 11th place finish. Obviously, you're looking to repent some demons this weekend, I take it, Giorgio.
Yeah, indeed. We'll try to do a better race this year. Last year we had some disconnection problems, so we'll make sure this year will not happen. And we are really working hard for this championship, and we'll try our best, of course, as always. But nothing is, set, and we'll have to work very hard to get the championship back. Because, as I said, our enemies are really strong this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously looking at the who we had last year, FFS Racing, Racing Line Motorsport, Yaz Heat, Ren Velton Pro Team, Pink Performance, Carbon Sim Sport, the list. I mean, obviously your team is one of the 15 that qualified for Split 1 of Season 2 through being in the top 15 in the points for the pros. One of the questions that I need to ask, really, and for the fans out there, you've decided to stick with the Audi this season, a very, very interesting choice, but also with the setup of the car, the way that the drivetrain, very much like a Ferrari, for instance, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive. It's got a fantastic V10, naturally aspirated engine. That will really help it around very twisty circuits like here at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, the Audi is probably our favorite car, so we've been driving with that car for so long. We've done SRO, we've done the World Cup, so we are really prepared mentally to drive this car. So we are not really scared, to bring this car in such a competition. But we know that it's gonna be really difficult, to push this car to the limit. But we know that it's a difficult choice, probably not the easiest one, but we know the potential of the car, and we know why we chose that. So hopefully we will not regret it during the championship, but we really love this car, and in my personal view, it's my favorite car. So why not? The Audi is really good.
Yeah, this track has a bit of a history with Audis. Obviously, in real life, the 2019 Bathurst 12 hours didn't exactly treat them nicely. But also with the season 1 of SimGrid World Cup, it was pretty much the same, where the Audis were absolutely rapid, probably the fastest car on the grid, but none of them seemed to be able to survive 12 hours of the race. Is there any nerves coming into this race because of the history this car has at this track?
I mean, we are not looking at those things. We just focus on our practice session, our qualifying, our race. We really always think about each stint a time. We have experience, so I think and I hope we know how to deal with this kind of pressure, and we try our best as always. But it's not gonna be easy. We know that, but like these things will not change. Our thought if the other Audis had issues or things, but we just stick to our practice session, our focus, and just try to get the pressure away by focusing lap per lap.
Well, Giorgio, thank you very much for your time this evening. We wish you and the entire team at GTWR, the number 157 Audi for Season 2 for the SimGrid powered by VCO World Cup. Go and get them.
Yeah, thank you very much for the good luck, and thanks to everyone for the organization, for everything, because it's going to be a very, very competitive championship, and this is thanks to SimGrid and to all the sponsors that made this possible. So thank you to everyone who is putting the effort to make this running. Thanks to everyone.
So firstly, a big thank you to Giorgio Simonini from GTWR Racing Team, the number 1 car. Well, actually, they were the number 1 going into last year. They were running in the 157 Audi. So Giorgio Simonini, as I mentioned earlier on, will be with Tobias Pfeffer and Jordan Sherratt. Luke, some very, very interesting, a very good question from yourself there about how history has never looked favourably on Audi. And there are a few in both Split 1 and Split 2 this time around for Season 2 of the SimGrid World Cup powered by VCO. Yeah,
it's such a weird, almost phenomenon that this track has with Audis. I mean, I look back to the real life Bathurst 12 hours in 2019. I think 3 different Audis had a crash at McPhillamy Park because the car was bottoming out, and because of I personally feel like because of how realistic ACC is, you actually have a very similar issue in the sim, that this car is rapid here. It's such a fast car at this track. In fact, it's probably the fastest here, but it's so unstable, so hard to drive at corners like Skyline, places like McPhillamy Park. We saw last year with the GTWR car, Jordan Sherratt was in a class of his own. He was so much faster than anyone else. And they had issues that, to be fair, mostly weren't their fault. They had a few disconnections, but they also had a couple spins during the race, if I remember correctly. So it's such an interesting combination, to have so much pace and yet this constant sort of lurking threat of danger. But the great thing about this track is that you're not, it's not just the Audis that face that danger. One mistake here and you're in a wall. You go down Skyline, you hit that middle curb too hard, you're in a wall. You're coming through in McPhillamy Park and you hit a curb too hard, you're in a wall. That is the entire lap here. It's such an interesting and dangerous challenge.
Yes, the 12 hours, which actually start this coming weekend, is going to really, really test the drivers. You've got to have your eyeballs on stalks. It will be on April 3rd. Then it's May 15th for the first 24 hours, and it will be at the iconic Ardennes Forest, the legendary 7-kilometre circuit known as Spa-Francorchamps. Donington Park will host round 3 on June 26th, and that's a 12-hour encounter before going to South Africa to Kyalami on August 21st, with the 24 hours of the Nurburgring hosting the season finale on October 2nd. Now, for those wondering about some of the prizes that are on offer, well, VCO have put up prizes worth around $20,000 here for the second season. And basing it on the prize pools and winnings, there's a prize pool of $10,000 split between the top 3 finishing teams in the entire championship. The winning team, the champion for season 2, will receive $6,000, and then second and third will get $3,000 and $1,000 apiece. And this is only for the first splits. A further $10,000 will be divided as prize money for each round, with $2,000 up for grab in every single race, and $1,500 distributed through the top 15 finishers of the race. And what's more, there's prize money involved in qualifying, because the pole sitter will get $25 and if you win a race, it's $350 for taking the victory, $250 for second, $200 for third. You can actually head to the simgrid.com and actually find out, have a check, click on the pit section, and that will give you all the relevant information at all. The highest placed manufacturer, the highest manufacturer-based finishing cars, so say for instance an Aston Martin and Audi, if you're that highest team, you get $40, and that's for split one only. Also, because of the big news that AK Informatica joins the SimGrid World Cup powered by VCO, over $5,000. The overtake of the series is going to be there's going to be a first prize, a brand new GE Force RTX 3080 from Nvidia. You've also got the overtake award for split 2. So it's there's a lot of prizes on offer. There's vouchers, $50, $100. There's also the fact that Coach Dave Academy, yes, will one of our very own sponsors here on the SimGrid, will himself be adding additional prizes to the championship, with the winning team of each round receiving a GT World Challenge and British GT setup bundle worth of choice, worth over $35. But we need to speak to one of the people that has really been instrumental in helping this get going. So if we can, let's have a chat with our very own Michael Hamlet. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, guys. How are we?
Well, all the hard work, we're good. We're raring, we're chomping at the bit to see who's going to take the inaugural pole position, because we've got a top 10 shootout super pole this evening. Yeah, a lot of hard work by the entire team here at SimGrid, but obviously a big thank you to Florian Hasper and the entire team at VCO, Coach Dave Academy, AK Informatica, and also Thrustmaster as well. There's been a lot of sleepless nights for you and the team, hasn't there, for getting this ready to go?
Oh, it's been a mammoth task preparing this, along with all the other content that we run. I'm so stoked to see this championship get underway. I think the qualifying sessions in both Split 1 and Split 2 are going to be incredibly intense. The qualifying that the teams had to go through to even enter this series was, that was really tough on the teams, and now they've just got to get down to it. First round of the qualifying. Really excited to see how close it's going to be, and the Super Pole later on this evening.
Yeah, very much the case. We've got a top 10 Super Pole shootout. Very much the format like at the Liquid Moly Bathurst 12 hours, which has been on hiatus since early 2020 when the last running was there. But it looks like we are now going to qualifying, and what's more, it's in the deep of the night, and this really is going to be a rather interesting proposition, I think, for every single driver, because it's a 20-minute qualifying session for each of the two splits. So the first split is now out. It's split 2. These drivers, Michael, over 350 of them competing in season 2. They are going to be going for it, aren't they?
Yep, this is going to be flat out. Show what you've made of. You know, you got to strike first, get the points on the board, and really stake your claim. So, these drivers will want to get as best qualifying in as possible to make sure that they can stand a good opportunity at a really good race result come race day on the weekend. It's very hard to move up the order here at Bathurst. You can't really make many overtaking moves in the mountain section. You're relying a lot on the straights, and this track's a killer, isn't it? One tiny little mistake, one little millimetre wrong, and that's it, you're in the wall. Hopefully no one's doing that tonight when pushing hard on quali.
Fingers crossed. Well, Michael Hamlet, thank you very much for joining us. And now it is underway officially. SimGrid World Cup Season 2 powered by VCO and Luke Rogers. We are in the depths of the night, 5 in the morning. The track temperature very green, and we've got split 2 out first. It's not going to be easy because these drivers have only got... that was Jan-Luca Gans, I think, just... whacked the wall going up towards the cutting, just glanced off it in the number 77 Aston Martin. These drivers are going to be, they're going to have to really have the eyeballs on stalks tonight.
Yeah, and with the lack of rubber that they have from that green track, means that it's going to be a real challenge to get lap times in, because there's not going to be a lot of grip. With these temperatures, you generally find that the cars are very fast. But when you take all the rubber off the track, that completely changes. So as this qualifying session goes, with 50 cars on track, it's going to continuously get faster and faster. So you want to set your banker laps early, get a couple of laps in over the first sort of 10 minutes of qualifying that put you in a decent place, and then go for those real push laps where you try and eke a 10th here or 10th there, push yourself up the leaderboard, because those final few laps are going to be critical to your overall qualifying.
Yeah, we've got 50 cars circulating around here at the 6.213 kilometre Mount Panorama circuit. First opened back in 1938. The highest point in the circuit is 962 metres above sea level. And the lowest to the highest point, it's a change of around 175 metres. There's Konstantin Soldatov in the number 68 like and subscribe team, running in the Aston Martin. 11 different brands represented, so we got Porsche, Mercedes, Aston Martin. A few times coming in as Lucas Kreuzer in the number 96. That's the Sidemax Motorworks. He's partnered with Sam Cairns and Tinko van der Velde. In the Ferrari. They've just gone provisional at the top of this first session. And then you got the number 13. That is of All In Racing with Tommy Villan behind the wheel. But Lucas Eck has just gone top in the 500 Ferrari, 500 Forza Italia.pl esports team. They're running in the Ferrari. And the mid-engine cars always seem to go well around this twisty circuit here, Luke. But we have seen it in years past. McLaren has won here. Bentley has won here. Obviously, we see the Hybrid Academy number 404 Bentley with Daniel Rowe behind the wheel as he literally surges his way through Sulman and now heading towards McPhillamy, where they're pushing over 140 miles an hour in about fifth gear. This is where it all counts, because qualifying is one thing, going for the race is something completely different altogether.
Yeah, but there's two really clear parts of the track. You've got the mounted section, which requires a lot of downforce on your cars. Your car needs to be really good in traction zones, but you also have that sort of open section of Conrod, and the mountain straight, and obviously the pit area. So it's a very sort of unique track in the fact that it has those two really different parts. But what that allows is that cars that are really different can compete at the top. Now, historically, it's really been the case of Mercedes and Audi have been at the top in qualifying. But when it comes to the race, the Honda NSX is really fast here. Things like the Nissan GTR, which is usually a bit of a meme car in ACC, is also really fast here. So because of the nature of those two, it almost feels like it's two separate tracks. Because of that, all the different cars with all their different specialities and their quirks, at some point during the lap, will be fast. Things like a McLaren are really good in the mountain section, but struggle everywhere else. And that pushed them down the timing board. Yeah. So, we're looking at these times right now. We're in the 2 minutes. We're expecting to get down to the 1:58s if there's enough grub on the track.
Yeah, track's now started evolving. It was green at the beginning of the session, which started just over 6.5 minutes ago. It's now gone to fast. So when we get to Optimum, I think you're spot on there, Luke. Interesting fact that the number 96, Sidemax Motorworks, we've got Lucas Kreuzer. They actually didn't qualify, and they're only racing in this round as a reserve. But they can actually, they can still win prizes if they finish the race in the points. They can still score points as well. As we've got Jan Kaminski from KEK Sim Racing in the 999. He's now making his way down Conrod Straight, which is just over 1.91 kilometres, and these drivers are going to be hitting it just around about the 280 kilometre marker. A very, very good point here, Luke, mentioned by Wondrous Perspectives on YouTube. This track is even more terrifying in the dark. Will you tell that to the drivers now? They'll probably rightly agree with you.
Yeah, this is one of the tracks I have probably the most experience actually on ACC. It's one of my favourite tracks to drive, but it's also, I think, one of the best tracks for endurance racing. So when it's available, I tend to compete in it. But these dark, the early hours, because the real life race starts at about 5 a.m. So this first few hours of the race, all you can see is about 20 meters in front of you. There's no lights on the mountain. There's no people up there with torches shining on the track or any floodlights anywhere like you'd get at maybe a European circuit race in the dark. So it's such a challenge because you're almost in this little bubble. All you've got is your headlights in front of you and a bit inside your car. You can't see anything out your rear mirror. You can't see anything beyond those lights. So that's why it's so scary, because you think at this track, places like the cutting, places like Skyline, about how much confidence, how much faith you need in those corners. Well, having that confidence in the dark, when you can't even see the corner you're braking for, is so difficult to do.
Yeah, Kaiser in the meantime has gone P2, and it's Villa in the lead, and Tavernari has just decided to drop into the pits as well. But Lukasek goes provisional pole. The Forza Italia PL esports team, the Ferrari, is leading now. The top 10 will advance to the Super Bowl shootout for both splits 1 and 2. Jan Kaminski just 9/10 off of the top spot, but is about just over 4.5 tenths away from getting into the top 10. And this is where the drivers really do need to, as Kaminski absolutely fires that Aston Martin through into the first part of the chase, down from about 280 down to 120 kilometers now. So that's down from 6th to 2nd gear going through the chase. He's got one more corner to make. So what can the 999? He's partnered with Yannick Hammer, who normally also does race around here. Goes P3 at 2-minute 1.002. I think Lukasek might be under fire, depending on who's going to go after him. As there's Full Boost Racing's Thomas Sivek in the number 497, deciding to pull to the right-hand side of Conrad Straight as one of the Ferraris goes past. But Luke, we're getting to the halfway point of the session. The times are really coming in thick and fast, and just by what I have just seen on the live timing, the top 41 cars. This is how competitive it's going to be for Season 2. 2 seconds cover the top 41 drivers so far.
Yeah, and we have to remember that all of these guys went through the same qualifying system. When we come up to Split 1, we've got the esports drivers, we've got the previous qualifiers from Season 1 and some qualifiers. Now we've got the next 50, the 50 that didn't quite make Split 1, but that are rapid as well. There are drivers in here that I sometimes get a race against. Johannes Weiss is I race with Battle Power Motorsports quite often, and he's on their team for this. Yep. And I'm about a second off him, and he didn't even make Split 1. It's absurd how fast these guys are, especially in qualifying. During the race it tends to get a little bit closer, but in qualifying, when it's all about that precision, that single lap pace where you're pushing the car to its absolute limit, these guys can just pull out some ridiculous lap times. And I was mentioning earlier those 158s. You need perfect conditions for that. But in perfect conditions, I can barely do a 159. These guys will easily do 158s when we get up to that optimum track. I don't know if we'll get them today, but I do expect we'll get into those 59s. And what that means is that top 5, that top 10 that we're looking at on this leaderboard is going to be changing all through these last 8 minutes.
Yeah, just keep your eyes on Jonathan Lee, who we've got on our screens at the minute in the 911 CMS Pro Porsche from Canada. He's now making his way down the hill into Murray's Corner. That's turn 23, as you can now see, and he decides to go into the pit lane. We're now on board with the number 13, All in Racing's Tommy Villa in the Honda, and he's just over a tenth off, and at the moment he's on course for pole position, but at the minute it's the number 69 car that is currently leading the way in this, and that is nice. XL Racing by Renwalden, and that's got Sebastian Dreyer behind the wheel. Then it's the 521 of Wheelspin Esports, and that has got Lorito behind the wheel. Then it's Lukasek for the 500. Then it's Tommy Villan. He's now coming through into the hard braking zone, down into the left-hander here at the chase. Turn 21 of the circuit here. Through turn 22, a very quick right-hander. Anyone might remember the Supercars redress involving Garth Tander and Jamie Whincup. It could possibly be pole position. Through the final corner, through Murray's, comes Tommy Villan. He hurdles across the line at 2-minute 0.567. Top 5, and there we see the number 602 Esport Performance Racing Team has just gone into P5, and that was Bryce Minguet at that particular moment. Daniel Rowe coming through. Gianmarco Calzetta from the Leone V Racing Team, and the number 11 Ferrari goes over the curbs coming out of Murray's, goes P5, 9/1000ths off of Lukasek. And Amos Lorito in the 5:21 rounds out the top three, coming through the exit of the chase. 6 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. We still have another 48 teams and 48 drivers coming onto the circuit. And Tavanari could be one to also factor in, but Lorito goes second. Radici, that is incredibly ridiculous from the number 166. And that was of the betasimracing.de. So that's a crazy, that was Alex Radici at this particular moment. And Tavanari at the moment is just coming down through into Quarry. So he's going through turn 2 at the moment. And Vinny Oliveira from the Kings of Asphalt, the Brazilian crew in the 35 Nissan. Nissan did win here back in 2015 with a previous generation Nissan GTR Nismo GT3. There's Tavanari going through the cutting. So he's got... And I think, I'm just wondering, Luke, coming into this latter part, these drivers are literally going within millimetres of this, and it sounds like Minge and the Audi, the Esport Performance Racing Team Audi, is now going for a provisional pole in split 2 and is 3/10 up at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, well, these timings on the left that we're seeing, ignore them. Over these next 5 minutes, everyone's going to be improving because we started with that green track with no rubber down, and as these 50 cars are lapping time after time, lap after lap, just putting that rubber down in the corners, tucking it into those sort of grooves in the track and smoothing it out and giving themselves more grip. And that's what we're seeing, as we improve, as everyone finds more grip, more pace around the track, it's changing so much. And that is why those last few laps, as I was mentioning, it's going to be critical. If you've got 1 minute left and you're out on track and you make a mistake on that lap, you're going to go from, potentially a top 10, which, by the way, we haven't even mentioned is Super Bowl. We've got a Super Bowl session coming after this. So if if you don't make that last lap, you're dropping out of the Super Bowl, and you could even be out of the top 20. But this lap here, from the 111 car, goes up to third place. 0.16 off pole so far.
Yeah, Gerard is a regular in the Sprint Cup Season 3 in the Ferrari, switches to Mercedes for the World Cup and goes P3. Alex Radici really going in there. And I'm just hearing at the moment that the 482 of MSL Racing has got Jeroen Moerman behind the wheel from the Netherlands, and is now, he's coming down through, looks to be Conrad Straight as they're going to go through into the right-hander, and this is going to be rather epic because at the end of it all, so what we can find out now is who is going to gun for pole position, because at the moment the top 10 covered by just over 3/10 in the first qualifying session for round 1. But let's see if Merman crosses the line. He goes P2, 54 thousandths off of Alex Radici. Oh my goodness me. Wow. Oh my goodness. This is just getting ridiculous now. I mean, anyone that's in the chat tonight, who is your money on for pole position in split 2? I mean, obviously, this is good. Now, Wojciech Lusaszek in the number 500 is now coming down through the dipper and through the S's. It's going to be very much the case as if that Ferrari glances the barriers and it causes a problem. We've only got 3 minutes on the clock remaining. Now, there was a spark coming from the rear diffuser that was going through into the entrance into Forest Elbow. Lukaszek going down Conrad Straight. He's 5/10 up. That's going to put us into the 2-minute 2s. This could be an absolutely epic lap. So we now head our way down through into the chase. Lukaszek going for what will be the top time that would automatically put them through into the top 10 Super Pole shootout later on in this qualifying session. One more corner, the 23rd and final turn. What will the number 500 bring to the party here at Mount Panorama as Lukaszek comes across the line? Pole position, a 2-minute 0.174. Radici has been put into the doldrums, and he's 2/10 off as Martin Schumacher comes across the line and goes P3. Luke, this is not over yet by a damn sight, and Jan-Luca Gantz rounds out the top 10, nearly 4.5 tenths of a second adrift.
I mean, a tenth is the difference between top 5 and not making Super Pole. That's how close this grid is. And it's just I think it's going to keep closing up, as everyone finds those last couple tenths in their lap time. we have to remember that all these guys were bloody close in qualifying to try and make it to this. So I expect it's going to be somewhat the same. We might even have the traditional 30-odd drivers within a second that I think Simmergrid's come to be known for. But it really is that one corner. One corner could be the difference for you between making Super Bowl and being outside the top 20 right now.
So there's Gianluca Gans with Gardi Racing, but there's Gianmarco Calzetta with the Leone team in the number 11 Ferrari, as they're now making their way through into Forest Elbow. And now it's time to put the hammer to the floor in that 3.9 litre twin-turbo V8 mid-engine car, producing around 700 Newton meters of torque, as Calzetta now floors the throttle, will be leaving the rev limit to the absolute minimum when it comes to shifting gears, but he's 4/10 up. That's going to put him in the top 5, but it's all about how smooth and consistent you are. We've got a yellow flag out courtesy of the number 13. That's the all-in racing car, and that is the Honda NSX. But Calzetta now making his way through Murray's Corner. Optimum is now what the track is registering. P2 by Calzetta by 0.12 of a second. But now Schumacher from the McLeod Racing Team version 1 in the 741, they're gunning for provisional pole, and we've only got 30 seconds. But the other thing here, Luke, is that other drivers like Calzetta that has crossed the line, what you've got is that they still will have an additional lap in this split.
Yeah, and that lap will probably decide whether they make Super Pole or come outside the top 20, because the track has evolved so much. It's just reached optimum. So there's enough rubber now, I think, probably for 159, so we're getting right close to that. I'm not exactly sure what lap Schumacher just did, but it was super close. No, they need to find a couple tenths here, and then they're there. So it's going to be so close. Dreyer here is improving, getting his NSX up. The NSX is a pretty good car here, but he can make Super Pole if he can put this lap together.
Yeah, it goes P3, 66,000 separate the top 3 as Martin Schumacher takes provisional pole at the moment, but has an additional lap in hand. He's now making his way through into the left-hander at the cutting. And looks like also the number 911 is trying to make some inroads as well. Top 5 covered by just under a tenth and a half. Checkered flag out for the session. So Jonathan Lee, can he get to the top of split 2 in this first flat-out 20-minute qualifying session? So the 911 crosses the line. Where does he go? P5. Loss of... So they're all changing all the time. Lukaszek still, well, the top 3 covered by 66,000 there, Luke. This is absolutely ridiculous. But then you've got the likes of Bryce Minge in the 602 from Belgium, closing in on what could possibly have an opportunity to get into the top 10 Super Pole shootout.
And Kreuzer down in 34th. I mean, if you'd asked me before this where Kreuzer was going to be, I was expecting Super Pole. Down in 34th for that 96 car. Actually, I think they just got pushed down even more. Yeah, down to 35th, and they're in the pits. So they're not going to get another lap in. But what we're seeing right now, all those drivers that are still out on the track putting in that final lap time, watch how much they all improve. Minge is going to cross the line here, 24th to 7th.
Wow, Amos Lorito in the 5:21, looking to go for it. We've got just under a minute until this maximum wait time on the server closes here for split 2. And if we thought that split 2 was going to be anything, split 1 is going to be something rather special. Lorito is going to be in the 159s. 159.9 already with 38 seconds left to go on the session there, Luke. It was only a matter of time. And what's Tavanari got in the tank here? He goes P2, but Larry, and it's a Ferrari 1-2 here for this session. The top 10 will automatically advance. And the last driver to be in there, according to my timing, was showing us the 482. And that's Jeroen Moerman from the Netherlands. So, wow. That was epic. I mean, I can't wait for Split 1 to come out, flying out the gates, because that's just going to be literally going to bring this World Cup well and truly alive.
And you can see on that screen that the best and the last bars, although we've just hopped to practice in Split 1, but the best and the last bars on the timing screen we just had there, how many of them were the same? Their last lap was their best lap for at least 2/3 of the top 15 there. So it just shows you how critical it is. First you get those banker laps in, and then you go, well, I didn't quite push enough here. So you push a little bit more there, and then you realize, oh, this corner I could do a bit more. Oh, there's more grip on the track, so I can push a little bit harder everywhere. and you just find that incremental time throughout the qualifying session. So it's all about getting those laps in, getting to the end of the session, and then putting in that perfect lap. And that's what we saw from those Ferraris. But you have to remember, it's not done there. Those top 10 still have their Super Pole later on. They're going to have one lap, one opportunity to put themselves higher up in the top 10.
Yeah, very much the case. We're in for a cracking season 2 here on the SimGrid World Cup, powered by VCO. Once again, a big thank you to VCO, AK Informatica, Coach Dave, Academy, and Thrustmaster as well. We are very shortly going to be going to the first. So this is basically going to be your format for what is going to be the entire season. So you're going to have a 20-minute qualifying session for Split 1, and then we have a top 10 shootout. It's good old dueling out here on this 6.213 kilometre circuit here at Mount Panorama. So effectively, it looks like we're going to go to qualifying. Split 1 really will be providing the fireworks, and then when we get to the top 10 shootout, that's where you're going to see one driver against another. It is one lap. Any mistake can really, really put things to... I think in some respects here, Luke, what I'm trying to say is that you make one mistake, it's going to throw your race possibly to the crocodiles, so to speak. But it's not about where you start. It's always about where you finish in endurance racing.
And that is really the joy of endurance racing, is you've got 12 hours to right the wrongs of qualifying. Yes, it's really important to get that early track position. And yes, if you can get out of that early traffic in the race and get away from the sort of the chaos that sometimes happens. If we have a traffic jam in the cutting, we don't have safety cars in ACC. So if you're one of the cars that escapes that traffic jam, you're going to get like half a lap from people. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Bathurst is one of those tracks where you can get a proper blockage on the track. So being near the front, it's not critical in endurance racing, but it's very important.
Yeah, we're on board with Ivan Shermatinsky, one of the regulars, very well known for his antics with a highlighter and a Chevy Camaro GT4, as myself and Lewis McGlade will testify back at Alton Park. But the 787, that is with the Jean Alesi Esports Academy crew in the number 787. He's partnered with Leonardo Del Carmo and also William Hendrickson, and they look to be running, I believe that is the BMW M6 GT3. The teams that we've got, literally, they are. I've just seen that all the cars are literally. They are even more closely packed than Split 2 was earlier on, and this is going to be rather crazy. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I'm surprised in that BMW pick for the John Lee Esports guys, because we have Mr. BMW or Niels Norjoks in the G2 Esports number 62. With the way we have this prize pool working, yes, there's the championship and the fastest lap as such, but you also have that money per manufacturer per race. So, having to challenge the 62 car, Mr. BMW, that's not going to be an easy shout for the 787 guys. But the John Lee Esports drivers, in SimGrid, they've got pedigree. They are drivers that are always right near the front. So if there's any team to challenge, it's probably them.
Yeah, Gregor Shield might as well not start spamming the chat. Spam this to help G2 already. Yeah.
I don't think Niels needs help.
For a bit of a giggle. No, he doesn't. No, we know how capable both he, the likes of him, Arthur Camera, and of course Gregor Schill as well, a new signing with G2 Esports. Here is Tobias Pfeffer, who is out qualifying for the reigning and defending champions, the 157 Audi, and no lap times set quite yet. We have just over 17 minutes of this race to go. Good to see Yaroslav Honzik, aka Jardier, definitely in the chat as well. So good to have him as part of the crew on this fantastic. Literally, you've got a who's who of sim racing in this second season here, Luke. Just clocking my eyes over the entry list, I was literally thinking, what on earth have I got myself into commentating on something as prestigious as this?
And we're starting to get sort of beyond sim racing in terms of the people entering. It kind of used to be that with these kind of events and with sim racing, all the teams were specifically sim racing teams. Then came along G2 and they started investing in their esports team. Now we've got the Unicorns of Love, which I always love to see because they always have a really good representation in the chat and have a brilliant logo. So I have to shout them out.
Yeah.
we're starting to see that sort of invasion of the traditional esports brands that I personally am really looking forward to, because, I mean, the more brands we have supporting teams and supporting drivers, the better.
Well, also, we, Bastian Richter, one of their regulars. I think the first time I clocked eyes on him was at the Silverstone British Classics when I made my SimGrid commentary debut. But then also, you mention about real-life drivers investing into esports. Take, for instance, Rocket Sim Sport. The drivers that they've got, and it's, oh my goodness me. Now, actually, before I got onto my point, Jonas Salvalainen, one of the two drivers from Griphax Engineering, he's partnered with Jesse Kauppinen. They had a fantastic drive last time out, and we are already in the 159s. The defending champions go provisional pole 159.481.
Michael's going ballistic tonight. He's going wild.
I know. Well, let's just say that what someone is saying in our ears is not really repeatable at this particular hour. But
I could repeat it. I just probably wouldn't have a job.
You could repeat it. Yeah. Yeah, very, very true. I think you'd be giving your P45. But there's Luca Burke, one of the drivers from Rocket Sim Sport, and look how close. I mean, like, literally. This is going to be absolutely dynamite. We're already in the 159.4s, courtesy of Tobias Pfeffer. Then it's Salvalainen. Then it's the 149 entry, and that has got Mikhail Statsenko. So that's the Yaz Heat crew, who've got Eamon Murphy, Andrea Capoccia, and Jardier in that crew. They're P3 at the moment. Luca Lozio from the other Jean Alesi Esports Academy car. That's the 27 Ferrari. Michael Coppera in the 101, and that's the silver racing team with Eurowash Audi. They're running out the top five. Top five covered by 6/10. Luca Burke now making his way down towards Murray's Corner. 14 minutes of the session still to go. And yes, what was it? Greco 3201 has just said, what, Amir Hosseini in a Bentley? Yes, that's very true. Luca Burke goes across line, goes P8. And there's Mr. G2 himself, Niels Neuox, and Chris Hardeveld in the number 32 Ferrari. That is for the GT. That's one of the multiple cars that Giorgio Simonini said to me that was going to be in Split 1. As Niels Neuox comes out of Murray's Corner in the BMW, goes P25. So a lot of changes, and already the top 20 covered by, make that the top 22 covered by just under 9.5 tenths, and it is changing all the time. Jan Willem van Ommen from the Netherlands with the Dow King Community car, the number 38 Aston Martin. He's partnered with Darren King and Vasily Onufriev in the Aston Martin. They're currently 41st, and they go up to P30.
There's a lot of drivers that almost look out of position here. Maciej Malinovski's outside of the top 30. In the last World Cup, he put it on pole at Spa. So, drivers like that being so far down, I think it's a real testament to how strong this grid is. And we're already in the 59.3s. It is worth pointing out that we started roughly with the track grip that we had at the end of Split 2's qualifying. So, we started with optimum. So, although we've already got a lot of rubber on track, it will still evolve and it will still get faster, which is why I kind of expect we'll get a 58 or 2. Out of this grid. But that's why we're already seeing the 59s. We're already seeing those fast laps. But the field spread's a little bit higher, which I'm a little bit surprised by. But you look at drivers that are not quite competing so far. Luca Burke, I want to give a shout out to him, because I'm racing him I'm on the same grid as him in a GT4 series I'm doing right now. He's leading the championship. I'm, I think, 14th in the standings right now. I actually caught up with him in the last race. I was pretty proud of myself. But he is like one of the fastest drivers I've ever raced against. He is rapid, and to see him a little bit down the leaderboard as he goes P7 there with an improvement, which is nice to see. But with the British GT Esports Championship going on right now as well, he's one of the title challengers up there with Niels Neuox, and to see those drivers not necessarily be right at the top of the leaderboard is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, looks like Amir Hosseini in the 777 Sim Racing Masterclass car. He's partnered with Zahir Essa and Raymond Mooney. And this is going to be to the wire. The Bentley has been strong around here at Mount Panorama, as Luca Lozio goes P6 for the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. Amir Hosseini round Murray's Corner. He goes P2, 60 thousandths off of the defending champions from GTWR with Tobias Pfeffer behind the wheel. That is 60 thousandths, and then exactly all the way back to Dennis Schoeninger in the number 21 WS Racing team. It's exactly the same distance, 60 thousandths. And now Giuseppe Montalbano in the number 129 Aston Martin making its way down through into the chase, and you can see the exhaust tips glowing red hot in the well, basically in what is pitch black here at Mount Panorama, with a few floodlights along the main start-finish straights, and you can see the exhaust gases being burnt off as they pop their way out of the exhaust. Montalbano only goes up to P23, and Luke, with half of the session still to go, I'm just keeping my eyes. Top 10 covered by just 0.486 seconds. This is, you know, I mean, 5 cars from GTWR. They've come here all guns blazing, irrespective of the machinery they've chosen for Season 2.
Yeah, and one thing that we've not even mentioned tonight that I've just been reminded is he goes straight to P3 with his first lap. But something we haven't even spoken about is the fact that this season's implementing success ballast. You know, after each race, we're going to take the, I think it's the top 15, give them all a bit of extra weight to try and balance the field. But this is the only time we're going to see drivers with no ballast on the cars, purely their machinery and, you know, the driver in the seat putting in that lap time. And that's why we're seeing such ridiculous lap times now. I expect on the you know, the later races in the season that ballast will maybe slow the field down a little bit, at least in qualifying. But, you know, Bathurst right now, we're really seeing some of the, you know, pretty much as fast as people can get.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, I'm just going to sort of read out a few statistics about this balance of performance, or dubbed the success ballast system. And it says that it's a dynamic allocation of ballast weight that will depend on the race finishes and positions for the next round. So there's none of this BOP business for round 1, and teams will be on equal footings. However, the top 15 finishers of round 1 in each split will be subjected to it. So effectively, based on the finishing position, if it's the winner, it's 40 kilos. If it's second place, it's 37 kilos, and it goes all the way down to 15th position, where 10 kilos of ballast will have applied. But then, if cars that finish underneath the top 15 in both splits will be exempt, but they'll be subjected to it if they finish above P15 in any future round. And it's actually and this is where I quote via the SimGrid website: the ballast weight applied from P1 to P15 is predetermined based on a position to weight table. So, and I've just heard that P6, which is that's Ivan Shermatinsky in the well, that was if that was no, that wasn't. Oh, hang on a second.
59.1 GTWR goes pole with Nurby. What a lap! And wow. Honestly, we're still going to get faster in the last 8 minutes. Hartenveld's improving as well. He's down in P13 right now, and the other GTWR, number 3 of 5, he's improving as well. Looking to make another half a second up. And I mean, we look at that right now. The top 5 with 3.5 tenths between them, but another 3.5 tenths puts you down to 15th in the leaderboard. It's such a close grid, as Hartenveld is really improving through this lap, showing that I think his perhaps earlier lap wasn't quite his potential. Puts it P3, 0.24 off pole right now with that 59.1 of Nurby looking pretty good. But Pfeffer's improving as well, the 157 car, the other GTWR car, number 1. 157, the car that has a bit of bad history with this track. They were the fastest here, but obviously that P11 caused by a couple of disconnects that weren't really their fault, but they're improving, and they go pole by 0.153 of a second, 158.9. I said we'd reach the 58s, and we're already there.
Words escape me right now, and I think Michael Hamlet needs a defibrillator on standby. Luca Burke.
Burke's in the wall.
13.
He got in the wall there on the exit. It's going to ruin this lap. He was improving a little bit, but I think he tapped the rear there on the wall as he came out, slid the tyres a little bit, and that's going to really choke his lap time.
47 cars separated by 2.3 seconds. Again, I'm completely dumbfounded. But now Ludovic Daoust in the Elvis Grassen team, the 416 Honda, now coming towards the finish line. 9th place from 28th. as Alban Bouquet in the 6:01, 14th on that run. Andrea Miato from the number 4. You know, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous how things are changing. I mean,
the SRO champion,
name that we know 10. Here. Oh my goodness me!
Like that. If you want to know how good this grid is, the SRO champion is not even in the top 10. Like Cecilia's down in 14th. I mean, I say that 10.5 seconds and he's in the top 10 again. It's the same with Macaulay. A couple tenths of a second, he's in the top 10. But it's such an insane field. It's such a balanced field. I mean, Joe Macaulay 9/10 off. That's not something you see every day.
No, Luca Losio just up by half a second. That will put him around about that will put him in the top 4 as the number 27 Ferrari. Oh, dosed in the wall, and that is off of Reed Park and Solman. So the Honda is in the barriers, unfortunately. That will more than likely be a return to garage. But Losio looking very close towards the front row of the, towards the top 2. The 27 Ferrari crosses the line imminently and goes P5 with 5 minutes on the clock to go. And you know what it is? It's a GTWR clean sweep in the top 3 here, Luke. I'm not at all surprised.
But we have to remember that with the way balance and performance works is that, I mean, some cars will favour qualifying and some will favour the race. I think of things like the Bentley, which everyone knows is really good on fuel, so it can fuel less. It can be a little bit lighter, which really tends to help it in the race. But a car like the NSX, especially at this track, the IGTC tracks, it's got so much straight line speed that at a track like Bathurst, it is one of the best cars for raceability and for overtaking people. So it might not necessarily be the best on a single lap, like maybe an Audi might be. But that single lap, that straight line speed and the sort of raceability of the car really supports it and benefits it during the race. So I expect we're going to see a lot of Audis and a lot of Ferraris towards the front in qualifying. But during that race, the Nissan, do we actually have a Nissan? That's a good question. The Bentley, not in split 1. No,
in split 1. We do in split 2.
Yeah. So the single NSX, and I think the other sort of front engine cars, the Mercedes is usually not that great. Its qualifying pace is usually better than its race pace, but it should, this track especially, it really comes good. Because of sort of the characteristics of the car, it's quite raceable here. So we should see, I think, a big change between qualifying and the race.
Yeah, Mikhail Statsenko. Looks like Hardevel's just gone P2. Statsenko's just gone P4 for Yaz Heat. Joe Macaulay from FFS Racing in the 123 Aston Martin. He's over 9/10 off in quali. We've got just over 3.25 minutes to go. There is a yellow flag out on track. He looks to have a couple of cars in front, which looks to be a Lamborghini in there, as well as another Aston Martin, as they now hurtle their way down into Conrad Straight. Lozio from the Jean Alesi crew in the 27 Ferrari goes to within 0.22 of a second off of Tobias Pfeffer. But Joe Macaulay now making his way down into the chase. Dennis Schoeninger in the 21 WPS car now making its way out. Sparks firing from the rear diffuser as he goes P5, and that was with a 1 minute 59.2 hang on a second, that was a 1 minute 59.325. Hosseini running out the top 7. James Baldwin. Now, when you see the world's fastest gamer down in 14th, you know it's not going to be easy. But obviously, with the fact that we've seen that Statsenko's running in the top 5 in the McLaren's still rather handy around here at Mount Panorama.
And there's now a 10th between 22nd and 15th. 1/10. That's how easy it is to shoot up the leaderboard. But I mean, really, easy getting 1/10 out when you're already this fast is absurdly hard. But it just shows you the sort of, I think, the character of this grid. How strong it is that all these guys are so close. And also that we don't just have, people like to use BOP as an excuse, say, oh, that car's faster. I mentioned how things like the Audi and the Ferrari we sort of expect out at the front because it's good here in qualifying. But really, I mean, you look at the top 10, you've got all sorts. I mean, yes, there's certain cars that are favouring it. And actually compare it there in the Audi. Another Audi gets up towards the front of the grid there in 10th place. Puts himself right on the edge of Superpole right now. But all of these cars really look on pace. I mean, even the second off in this kind of grid, is ridiculously fast.
I definitely take your word for it, and having now witnessed it with my own eyes here in qualifying, Luke, I mean, we've got this qualifying session. The race on Saturday is going to be absolutely mind-blowing, as we've got Wolf Matuszka running in the original colours of what used to be BWT Muka Motorsport. Matuszka in the firing line for possibly getting into the top 10. And let's see where he factors in. Goes P9 and drops Copera out of the top 10. Pips Salvolainen for 9th position by 6 1,000ths of a second. And we've only got half a minute to go. There's Yura Petrichenko in the number 14 from Unicorns of Love. Fantastic reveal trailer of their car. And zebra-esque style livery on that Aston Martin V8 Vantage. As Yura now makes his way down through the latter part of Conrad Straight and into the chase. Top 10 covered by just under half a second as the timer counts down to 0. There will be a max waiting time, so drivers that will have crossed the line, that will include Rutronic E-Racing's, well, Huber's going to be the first one to cross the checkered, 11th by, what was it, less than 70 thousandths. Petrichenko 22nd for Unicorns of Love. And this is where things really now, drivers are going to have to put their A game on. There was a Bentley in the wall there bringing out the yellow flag. There's also someone off of the exit, well actually of the outside of Hell Corner. That's Macaulay whacks the barrier good and proper. That's not what you want on your final. That's not what you want on your final quali lap.
No, that's going to do a fair bit of damage to this car, and you can see how much he's pushing, trying to find some lap time. But I don't know if he's going to. I mean, he's still going, so it's suggesting to me that he's either doesn't want to hold up anyone behind him by getting in the way, or he's actually somehow still improved by hitting the wall. But you have to think that car's got a bit of damage as they try and approach the last lap. We've got a couple more drivers here about to cross the line. Gamble going to improve. He shoots up to 18th place, a 10 improvement there at the end of the thing, at the end of qualifying. Sorry, but the 157 as well coming to the line. One of the cars we expected. Cecilia's improving. One of the drivers we were really surprised by about how low down they are. And now he's looking like 6/10 up. He might make Super Bowl after all. We were saying that maybe it wasn't his night. Or maybe it is.
6/10? Oh my goodness me. That is going to put him right up at the sharp end of this qualifying group here for Split 1. Top 10 make it through to the Super Bowl. And we'll have... So, Dominic Goltz from Revolution Sim Racing Blue goes across the line. And there
I can't wait for this Cecilia lap.
From Odex Motors. I know. Let's just see what happens here. It goes P9. Matuszka out of the top 10. Oh, Matuszka's out of Super Pole. Oh my goodness me. Well, would you believe that the defending champions, GTWR with a 157 Audi with Tobias Pfeffer behind the wheel. Wow. That's ridiculous.
I mean, you look at the people that didn't make it, though. I mean, the amount of drivers, the amount of pedigree, that we have outside of the top 10, it's just absurd. But, when we look at the top 10, there's some familiar names, I think, for me, in terms of SimGrid, with obviously the reigning champions of the World Cup. We've got Amir Hosseini up there, who everyone knows. It doesn't matter what car you put him, what track he's at, he's rapid. There's also a couple of names that I think, don't necessarily have that pedigree in SimGrid. They do in other series, but there's a couple sort of new faces to the world of SimGrid World Cup, and that really excites me because it gives me those sort of not nerves, but there's so much anticipation for this race coming up, and also for the Super Bowl session we're about to get, because I don't really know what's going to happen.
Neither do I. So I think really let's bring him in once again. Giorgio Simonini. Luke, over to you.
Well, I think that qualifying session went pretty much perfectly for you, Giorgio.
Yeah, it was perfect. We are really happy in the team. We are unexpectedly 1, 2, 3. It's really emotional because you're like, wow, the guys did an amazing job. Tobias did an amazing lap time, even though he had 2-second damage, and he tried his best as always. And really good job to Chris and Nurby. Wow, really amazing qualifying. Really happy of my guys and couldn't be happier today. Really an amazing job.
And with your cars that you have, across this split, you've got Ferraris and Audis. Is there a reason behind that beyond the fact that we have the sort of money between the manufacturers? Is it driver preference?
No, it's just because, everyone has its own favorite car, so everyone chooses what he wants. We are not choosing for the prize money. We are choosing for what we love to drive. So each one choose their own car. We had like 2 teams with Aston, 2 teams with Ferrari, and 1 team with Audi. So it's, everyone chooses its car. Some prefers Aston to drive more safe. Some likes Ferrari for its behavior, and we like the Audi because you see there is potential.
It is just one of those cars where if you can get it right, it's such a brilliant thing to drive. But it is a real challenge, and credit to Fefa to get that thing onto pole. But it gives you the best position, best starting position for Super Bowl. Do you feel confident that that 1, 2, 3 that we just saw in qualifying is going to get repeated?
I'm very confident on Michael Enerby, Tobias Pfeffer, and Chris Hartwell. They are very, I know them good. I race with them, so I hope they will do the same job as they always do. So surely they will do their job. But our enemies, as I told before, are really strong. But we will focus lap per lap and do our best. I wish them the best of luck.
And then there are a couple teams in particular that you guys are expecting to be fighting right at the top throughout the season, because for me, you are one of the your team, the 157 especially, is the sort of favourites for this championship. But what other teams are you looking at as your potential rivals?
So we know the new entries, especially in ACC, are really strong, such as Triton Racing. I think they will be a good opponent. Then we know that Jean Alesi and Yacit and One Racing, there are many teams that are really strong. We saw it today. Maybe G2 Esports will be a lot competitive in Spa. So it's not just today; it's a championship point of view. So there are quite a lot of teams that are capable of winning this championship. So as always, we try our best race for race, and it will be fun and hopefully as today.
Well, thanks for coming to join us a second time. It is now time first for Split 2 Super Bowl, and then we're going to see all your drivers compete in Split 1 Super Bowl straight away after.
Yeah,
both of them are going to be pretty great shows, I think. Thanks for coming.
Hopefully. Thanks to everyone. Have a good day.
Right, okay. Time to get down to brass tacks for round 1 of season 2 of the SimGrid World Cup, powered by VCO at Mount Panorama in New South Wales. Now, the regulations for top 10, the top 10 Super Bowl, and it looks like that we're going to have the 482, that is the MSL Racing entry, the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. It is basically, you have an out lap, a flying lap. So there is Jerome Moorman in the 482 Ferrari from MSL Racing, and it will be out lap, flying lap, and then an in lap, and every single driver has to complete them. And one of the big things, Luke, is that you have to complete them all, otherwise you end up at the bottom part of the top 10 in each respective splits, and that's not what any of these drivers wants this evening.
Yeah, and the thing I love about this format is there's no opportunities for mistakes. It's such a challenging way to set it up, because you only have 1 lap to set up your tires. 1 lap to get the tire temperatures in, to get your brake pressures right. Get all your cars set up for this single lap that you have to do, and then it's in your head. Do I push? Do I get aggressive? Do I push for my perfect lap, or do I, maybe go 2-3 tenths back? Do I aim for a 59.5? Do I aim for a 59.8 or a 2-minute flat? Because if you're pushing too hard and you make 1 mistake, that's not going to be you maybe dropping from 1st to 3rd. That's going to be you dropping from 1st to 10th.
Yeah, and it's those thousandths, it's those tenths that really, really do cause issues for any driver, as Merman is making his way through into the dipper and through the S's. So it is out lap, in lap, and then also making sure that these drivers now, and it seems like everyone's taking to these liveries rather nicely. We've got a very different cornucopia of liveries here, Luke, on the grid for season 2. And you can just see now that Jeroen Moman is now going to make his way down Conrod Straight and into the chase. This is where Superpole, incredibly crucial, and Moman is going to be the one that sets the benchmark here at Mount Panorama. 6.213 kilometres. Over 3 of those are covered by straightaways. Moorman's really going to hustle it right now.
Yeah, and the good thing for a lot of these drivers is that the sort of the critical point for your tyre pressures, you know, for where you want your car to be at its absolute perfect sort of handling, is that mountain section, which is, you know, nearly halfway through the lap. With obviously you've got the Hell Corner and now onto the mountain straight, so you've got time to get that temperature in. You've got time to get to the right pressures before you hit those corners where, you know, even if your pressure is just 0.2, 0.3 psi off, as we head here into the first corner of the mountain, you can see the amount of commitment you have to get that car into the camber before you run wide here. But if your car's not right at this point in the track, you're going to lose so much lap time. Cutting here, a bit of blind faith, pray that your car can stick here. As you start to turn in, you're going to stay in second gear most likely. It doesn't quite get all the way to the exit wall there. Usually you see drivers get quite wide on the exit, but this corner here is pretty critical as well. If you lift off at all, you lose probably 2-3 tenths through this whole section of the track, so it's very critical for the first park section that you can stay flat. McPhillamy Park here, a corner which claims a lot of cars' lives across races. In the 12 hour, expecting to see some issues, and now Skyline, one of the most challenging corners you can drive. You have to have so much commitment over that inside curb, but if you hit it too hard and you hit it the wrong way, you can propel your car into the outside wall. A little bit messy for a moment there through the dipper. You got onto that exit curb a little bit too much. Here, down Forest Elbow, that looked pretty good. You got the exit nice, and that's really the critical part of the corner in Forest Elbow. You know, you can lose a little bit of time on entry, but if you spin your tyres on the exit or you get a bit of a slide on through the corner, you lose time all the way down Conrod. And coming up to the chase here, you know, if you're a little bit slower than you expect in the chase and you brake early, you lose a lot of time in the next corner because you're braking too early, because you then hit too much minimum speed. You have to carry a bit of speed through the chase here, because doing so, it gives you that downforce that you need to carry the car through the corner. If you're a little bit too slow, you actually tend to go, you tend to be a lot more unstable than if you're a little bit faster. One more corner to go for a moment here. Just about going to miss that inside curb. You can get wide on the exit, but don't get in that grass because you'll lose that traction and you're going to lose the run to the line. A 2-minute 0.4. You know, in split one, we were seeing the top 30 were in the 159s, but given the fact that it's one lap, given the fact that your car's not in perfect conditions, 2-minute 4 is pretty respectable for a Super Bowl lap.
Yeah, so he's now got to do his in lap here, but we've got Bryce Minguet from the 6:02 entry. That's the eSport Performance Racing team. And he's got Nizar El Haddad and Damien Fouillet as his teammates, as he now will start the first Audi to be the only Audi here in split 2 for the Super Pole. Through into Hell Corner, runs the car a little bit wide to the right coming out of turn 1. And now the 1.1 kilometre mountain straight. Now also, one of the other things about this circuit, and I've mentioned it before here, Luke, is the agility. And the Audi with its mid-engined rear-wheel drive layouts in terms of drivetrain, a 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 engine, powering up the hill through into the cutting. And it looks like the 166 has now started on its outlap, and that's got Paul Schaum behind the wheel. It's all about precision here and keeping it close to the wall, but we saw it in qualifying that again a lot of drivers were glancing or nigh on hitting the wall.
Yeah, and there's sort of limits to it. You know, you get close to the wall or you hit the wall, and you know, if you can get close without hitting it, generally you gain lap time. There's a couple exceptions to that. You know, coming up the cutting, if you run wide because you think that's the optimal line, you know, you overdrive and try and get that perfect line, then it can actually hurt your lap time. But if you're not maximising, you know, through places like the Dipper, where you really tuck the car on the inside, Forest Elbow is the same as well. You know, those kind of corners, you have to literally be scraping the wall every lap to get that perfect lap time. And you know, with the pace we're setting here, you know, we're expecting probably 159s, if not in this Super Bowl, in the next one. You know, you need to be extracting that lap time, but getting as close to the wall as possible.
Yeah, very much the case. As very shortly, Minguet will now come into turn number 23, Murray's Corner, the left-hander. And what will the Audi bring to the party here at the Superpole? Comes across the line, 2-minute .159. So a good bit of work there by the 602, as now Alex Radici in the 166 Mercedes. That's Beto-simracing.de comes across the line. Mercedes has never won here at Mount Panorama. They have stuck it on pole position before. Some drivers that have raced here in the Mercedes brand, names like Raffaele Marcello, Mauro Engel, Shane van Gisbergen, to name but a few, as Radici now powers his way down towards Quarry Bend, turn 2, the right-hand sweeper. And then we're also going to have the 911 on their outlap, the CMS Pro. That's Jonathan Lee from Canada. He'll be next up. And just how close Radici. Now Radici and the 166 team, you know, they were fighting at the sharp end of the grid in terms of the 20-minute qualifying session to get into the Super Pole. I think this team could be one to watch here, not just tonight, but also when the race gets underway at 12 noon British Summer Time. That's 1 p.m. Central European Time this coming Saturday for round 1 of the second season of SimGrid World Cup powered by VCO. And Radici very committed, very close to the barriers with the Shannon's livery all on the side going through there, and then into the left-hander through Conrad, and now on the down through Forest Elbow, down Conrad Straight. So Alex Radici has got to beat the time of 2-minute .159, but the track temperature is increasing. Kylo's just asking on there. Oh, it looks like we've got Adam Christodoulou watching as well, another stalwart from the Mercedes AMG family. He's also been racing in it as well. With regards to the Super Pole, that will put you on pole position, and he's also he's actually racing in this as well in Split 1. But the biggest thing is that for Kylo, he's saying, well, how does Super Pole work? Well, if you put it on pole position in the split, which Radici's just gone 1 minute 58.892. That's a lap and a half, over 2.5 tenths as Jonathan Lee in the 911 will come across the line in the 911 Porsche. This car took pole position for the 2020. Not this particular car, but the car that got it on pole was this particular vehicle. He now goes into the left-hander at Hell Corner. So
it's all about the mountain for this Porsche. It's all about the mountain, because this car is, you know, it's very well known, I think, for everyone. It's not great on the straights, you know, because it's quite small, it's not very heavy, and with the way power to rate ratio works, you don't get that much power, you know, compared to the rest of the cars. But this thing is so nimble, so agile. It's also quite unstable, so it can be prone to a mistake in qualifying. But if you can keep it together, you know, if you can hold a lap together in a Porsche, it's one of the best cars through this section of the track. Expect him to be very committed, very close to the walls as he flies through the mountain section here. We're going to get flat out through the... Oh, he's going to lose the rear. Oh, he just holds on. But you see the instability there of the Porsche as the rear tyres touch that curb on the inside for the corner, for the first park corner. Through McPhillamy, we're looking pretty good still. You know, maybe lost a couple tenths, but I mean, if you look at the first 3 so far, if he's setting a high 59 and he loses a couple tenths there, he's still got a chance to make up some positions.
Yeah, very much the case. We now have another car out on the circuit, and that is the number 11. That is the Leoni team, the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. And in that particular car, it is going to be Gianmarco Calzetta, who is now making his way through Forest Elbow. Don't forget, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find in the top right-hand corner of your screens at the SimGrid on Instagram, sim_grid on Twitter. You can also head to thesimgrid.com for any of the latest information. Also about daily races, which we hold quite a few of at the moment. Jonathan Lee now coming through Murray's Corner in the 911 Porsche. The Canadian muscles his way towards the line, P3 on that particular occasion. Half a second off of Radici with Minge and Merman, and Merman was effectively the one that was having to be the guinea pig, so to speak, and it's not the nicest thing to be in 10th position, because you're the one that's going to suddenly see your lap time dropping a bit unceremoniously during the session.
Yeah, and I think we saw just how costly that little slide was for Lee, because in theory, as we progress through the drive, the later we get, they should be faster, because obviously it's reversed from the top 10 in the first qualifying session. So Lee really should have been competing with Raditi right at the top, but I expect with that slide he had through Griffin's Mount and Reed Park that he probably lost, I would say 3, maybe even 4/10 of a second, because you don't just lose it in the corner you had that slide. You've got that run all the way to Sulman Park and McPhillamy Park, where you carry that momentum that we'll see here from Calzetta as he comes up the hill. He gets a little bit of a tank slapper there through the cutting, so he's going to lose a little bit of time on exit. And obviously as we stay flat through here, it's going to be losing time all the way down on the hill. It won't quite be as bad as Lee's slide through Sulman Park, Reed Park, sorry. But as we get to Sulman now, this is where he can start to regain some of that lap time. It gets very wide, but pretty much perfect line there. We come to McPhillamy, it gets on that inside curve, but not too much to unsettle the car. It's looking pretty good, nice and committed here. As we go down Skyline, he gets on that inside curve pretty well, gets the car stopped, but the dipper, he's a little bit understeering there. And he bottoms out quite hard through the dipper there. I don't know whether that's going to hurt his lap time, but it's certainly a little bit scary. A slight tap of the wall, but it shouldn't be any harm done. As we get nice and close there through Forest Elbow, he's going to get wide on the exit, early on the throttle as he runs down the Conrad straight. So lap's looking pretty good. It's not perfect from Calzetta, but in Superpole you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be really good.
And you need to be ahead of the opposition as well. That's the key thing, as the number 69 of XL Racing by Renvelten's Sebastian Dreyer has now gone out onto the circuit in the Honda, as we're still with Gianmarco Calzetta going through into Murray's corner. Now, will the Ferrari go to the top of the timesheets? It was a Ferrari that started Superpole here in Split 2, as Calzetta now comes a little bit wide going out of the final corner. P3 there on that particular occasion, so 0.369 off of Radizzi. And now it is the turn of the Honda, a car that you're favouring to be a bit of a dark horse here this weekend at Mount Panorama, and as it is Sebastian Dreyer in the number 69 Honda NSX GT3 Evo. That is really, and I think it's probably going to be one of the cars that's really going to be the star here this weekend.
Yeah, it's a bit of a one-track special, this car. It tends to struggle on average. Paul Ricard, it's okay because of the length of the straight, and Kyalami, it's okay, but this is a track where the Honda goes from being a midfield car to being one of the cars to beat on this series. But right now, what we're seeing is those drivers, Radizzi and Mingwei, neither of them made a mistake, no matter how small. They just got that lap in, and Radizzi's lap is pretty special, but Mingwei's, he just made sure he didn't make those mistakes and put in a pretty solid lap. Calzetta and Lee, I think from the onboard, it felt like a faster lap, but we saw Lee's tank slapper in Reed Park. We saw Calzetta tap the wall and also have that slide in the cutting, which I think lost a bit of traction running up the hill. And both of those things turned what could have potentially been a pole lap into a lap that will probably end up with him around 6th or 7th here, as the last 5 drivers really should be faster than them. Dreyer here, the Honda's looking pretty good. A little bit wide here, a little bit understeering through McPhillamy Park, but actually sometimes you want your car to understeer there, because if it's oversteering, you're going to spin out. We keep nice and close here on the wall. First part of the dipper, second part looks pretty good as well, and we stay away from the wall. So we're keeping a lot of the traction down here. Really important corner once again with Forest Elbow. Once again, get on that throttle early, get on the throttle before you're finishing the corner so that you can get this Conrad run. This is where the Honda is strong. This is where it generates a lot of its lap time. Purely straight line speed. It's got a big engine. It's not got a lot of downforce. Pretty much the perfect combination for a straight line.
Yeah, as Sebastian Dreyer now makes his way through into the chase. So the Honda, the XL Racing by Renvelten car, now making its way through. It will be the 6th out of 10 cars here in Split 2 for Superpole. Run down towards the 23rd and final corner. What will Sebastian Dreyer pull out the bag? A little bit of a bumping over the curbs. 96,000 off of Alex Radizzi. Oh my goodness me. I think probably by that moment coming out of the final corner, as we now have Wojciech Lukaszek going across the line in the number 500 Ferrari, the Forza Italia PL esports team. And there's some great liveries in this grid as well for season 2. A bit of the Italian tricolore, and then you've got the the Polish white and red around the back of the car as well. Some great creativity by some of the livery designers for season 2.
Yeah, but we're going back to that dry lap there. You want to get a little bit wide on the exit for Griffin's corner. For Murray's corner. You want to use a little bit of that exit curb because it helps to straighten up the car. But as soon as you get your right side tyres into the dirt, into that grass that we see just beyond the curb, you lose the traction. And it doesn't hurt too much, especially at the end of your lap. You might lose a tenth, but when you look at that, a tenth would have put in pole. And we come back here to Lukashek. It's a little bit understeering there through the start of Reed Park. It doesn't really hurt his lap time. Looking pretty good through Solomons. He's got to tap the wall a tiny bit, I think, there. But it shouldn't be any harm done. Look, Philomees looks pretty good. He's pretty much the perfect line. And again, Skyline. Let's see this commitment. See how much of that inside curb he can use. It's looking pretty good so far. This lap is looking like one of the fast ones.
Indeed. And half of the cars represented in the top 10 for Split 2 are all Ferrari. We've got 2 Mercedes, a Porsche, a Honda, and an Audi. As Wojciech Lukaszek makes his way down towards the chase, and we'll see what happens very, very shortly. As looks like Martin Schumacher is out again in his car in the 741 Mercedes. So looks like the number 500 about to come under the Liquimoli Bridge, heading into the left-hander at Murray's corner. So will it be a possibility of a Ferrari on the top of the timesheets? We're about to find out. He goes P3. So it is Mercedes, Honda, Ferrari and Audi. That rounds out the top 4 at the moment in Superpole with 3 to go.
Yeah, but I think these last 2 drivers, one of them I think is going to be the pole sitter, because these 2 drivers have so much pedigree, especially I think Tavanari and Schumacher. Tavanari, if I remember correctly, he had a really good finish here last season in the World Cup. I think it was at Bathurst. But Schumacher as well, he usually drives a BMW. And, he does things in a BMW you'd kind of expect a GT driver to do. He's that fast in the thing compared to your standard BMW driver. So seeing him in a Mercedes is a little bit confusing, a little bit unusual. But I expect he should only get faster, because in theory it is a faster car. Especially across the season, maybe not necessarily at single tracks, but as we watch his lap here, this is the sort of part of the lap that the Mercedes is not necessarily the best at. It's good in the sort of stability department, and also in those fairly high-speed corners, but in the low speed, it can be quite inconsistent. It's not bad by any means, but there's certain corners here, especially as we go through the park sections, where it will really struggle compared to your Ferraris, your Audis, and your Porsches. So we're not really looking for a perfect lap time through the mountain. A pretty good one will be good enough. But if you get your exits for the straights right, if you get your braking zones right as well, then that's going to get you this lap time. And that's why we've already got one towards the top of the grid, because they are really fast here if you can get it right. This corner is critical for a Mercedes lap time. Get your conrod right, get your entry into the chase right as well, and you're going to get a lot of lap time for this car compared to everyone else. It's looking pretty good so far from Schumacher, as he's looking to sort of beat the 166, put his Mercedes on pole instead of the other one. I think he's a contender right now.
Well, yeah, it could be a Mercedes 1-2, but whether that's Radizzi or Schumacher is anyone's given choice, as Martin makes his way through the chase into the left, then into the right. One more corner to go. We still have 2 more cars, and the next up will be Luca Tavanari in the Rookie Monsters number 7 Ferrari to go out next, and then it will be Stefano Bonsignori for the 522 Wheelspin Esports.
I did not feel like that.
That was not. Now, what on earth happened there with Schumacher's?
I mean, it felt
really
felt so fast. The body language of the car and the lap time just did not seem to really fit together there. I was expecting that to honestly pit Radizzi at the top, but I can only assume you made a mistake in the traction zone that we didn't see, maybe in turn 1, because the rest of the lap that we saw was pretty good. At least the rest of the lap that I was properly paying attention to his lap time. With these 2 drivers left, I was expecting it to be really close between that last 3 for pole, but Schumacher obviously made a mistake somewhere, or just couldn't quite extract the lap time. I wonder if maybe he didn't get his pressures right. That's another sort of potential, with the fact that it's Super Bowl, you only get that 1 warm-up lap. It's very difficult to actually get a perfect lap time in. Tavanari's trying here, looking pretty good through the cutting there. He gets pretty much the right line there. There was no wheel spin as well on the exit, which, as already pointed out, is pretty critical. Don't want to touch that inside curb too hard. He does get fairly hard onto it, which is going to unsettle the car, but he holds onto it. There was no real slide, so no real lap time sort of burned off by sliding a car. Stability's looking pretty good, but we're a little bit wide of McPhillamy, and he's going to spin the car. Tavanari goes round, he hits the curb too hard on the exit to McPhillamy, and that is the lap time gone. That is 10th place for Tavanari. He's not going to be anywhere closer.
I did say you make one mistake, it can throw your lap, and unfortunately, Luca Tavanari has now got. I mean, to be honest with you, okay, it's P10. It's not where Rookie Monster's going to be at all. There'll be that deflation, but then they'll still be at the sharp end of the grid come race day on Saturday the 3rd. So, I think, it was a case that there was pressure. You could feel it there a little bit because that car didn't seem to me to be 100% settled, even though it looked like it was on the ragged edge. I mean, he's still pushing to make up some time, but then, it's not going to be Bonsignori that's going to be behind the wheel of the Wheelspin Esport car. It's actually Amos Lorito that actually put that car at the top of the timesheets. But Luca Tavanari comes across the line, and that was a 2-minute 3. But there is Amos Lorito. Now, this is the lap that really will hopefully see maybe a Ferrari hit the top and take pole position for Split 2 for the first of 5 races this season. And in many respects, Lorito's got it all to do. He's the one with the pressure cooker situation. He's got to be as nigh on perfect. Maybe the slightest mistake he can be allowed, but anything else, it's sort of like, well, if he's going to go for it, he's got to go for it now.
Yeah, well, I said the top 3 would be one of our pole sitters, and so far Schumacher's had an uncharacteristically slow lap and Tavanari spun, so it's all on Lorito to make my prediction come true. The Ferrari is a bit of a hot lap special here. That is where it generates a lot of its sort of, a lot of the BOP at this track for Ferrari is favoured towards qualifying, favoured towards single lap pace, but it does lose out on stability, and that's what we saw. He hit that curb on the inside of McPhillamy. I'll point it out when we get there as we run through Sunwood Park. There's this little curb on the right just before the entry. We're going to touch it here as well for Lorito, but it keeps the car stable through it. When Tavanari hit it just lost the rear as he turned in, and that was the end of the lap. We're a little bit unstable through Skyline, but I don't think it will really hurt the lap time. We're a little bit wide through the first part of the dipper. Second part looks pretty good though, and the exit at least worked out pretty well for Lorito. At most you're losing maybe half a tenth from the little wobble that he had. I don't think it's going to hurt him at all. A little bit wider than I perhaps expect through the Forest Elbow. We didn't quite get to the wall, but it shouldn't be the end of the world either, as you can carry a little bit more pace through the corner when you do it like that. But sometimes you struggle on the exit if you don't quite get that, right to the edge of the track. We've got this combo straight now, obviously, with a couple corners left. We've got the chase, and then into Murray's corner. The chase is a critical corner here. Again, you want to carry a lot of speed into the corner. It's trail brake as you go through. Touch this inside curb, but don't bounce off it because it will unsettle your rear as you try and accelerate out of the corner. One more corner to go for Lorito to put himself on pole. Can he do it? Well, we're about to find out. Murray's corner brake just after 100 metres board. Use that rubber on the track and a little bit of camber here on the left-hander. Get wide on the exit onto that curb. He doesn't run too wide. It's looking pretty decent, but he doesn't get pole. By 0.042 of a second, he puts himself on P2. And Radizzi is going to have pole for the first round of the SimGrid World Cup in Split 2.
Oh, well, who would have thought that would have happened? The first Super Pole shootout of the second season of the SimGrid World Cup, powered by VCO. And we've still got the hot shots still to come. We've still got Split 1, Luke, and that's going to be rather interesting, to say the very least.
Yeah, we saw there with that lap that, I said on the Forest Elbow that it didn't quite get the car turned in early and couldn't quite get it into the wall. And, as I said, usually that's, maybe half a tenth. That's not the end of the world if you do that in the race. It doesn't really hurt you over the race if you don't quite get that corner right every time. But when you're in a Super Pole session with a grid like this, that half a tenth would have put him on pole. So, that was all the lap time he needed there, just to get that corner a little bit more perfect, a little bit more right at least. It doesn't even need to be perfect to get him onto pole. But such an unfortunate. I say that you're on the front row for round 1 in the SimGrid World Cup. You've got a pretty good shout at some solid points and maybe a little bit of money as well. But I think he'll be hurting for the fact that he didn't get onto onto pole. Obviously, we have a prize for the fastest driver, so that's gonna be a little bit of a burn in the back of his mind, I think.
Yeah, but then also there's 4 other opportunities to get pole position this season, but to get it at the first round out of 5, 84 hours of racing in SimGrid World Cup powered by VCO Split 2. And I think we might be very shortly going to Split 1. And, what we saw, obviously you had that nice chat with Giorgio Simonini after Tobias Pfeffer, literally was manhandling that Audi around here. And that could be a foreboding sign of what might come over the next 5 races.
Yeah, but it's such a interesting track, because when you watch someone that looks like they're manhandling, they're throwing the car into corners, it actually sometimes is slower. As I see in chat that it was Edinger said that that last lap that we watched didn't look that fast. But the reason why it didn't look that fast was because he wasn't sliding the car. He wasn't losing traction on corner exits. Obviously, bar Skyline, where he nearly did a pirouette over the top of the hill. But in corners like the cutting, it didn't look that fast because it was pretty much spot on. He didn't understeer on entry. He didn't oversteer on exit. He just got it just right in either of them. And there was those 2 corners. We had the first downhill corner just before the dipper where he didn't quite get to the apex because of that little unstable moment he had over the curb in Skyline. And then we had the Forest Elbow where he didn't quite tuck the car in, which meant that he slightly compromised his exit. Both those points, not the end of the world in a race. In a qualifying session, it's critical. And when you come now to Split 1, we saw how close it was in Q1. Now we come to Super Pole. If any of these drivers are making those small mistakes, even if you just make one, it could be the difference between first and 4th or 5th.
Well, I think really, let's see if we can actually head to Super Pole for Split 1, because this is going to... I mean, to be honest with you, 98 cars shoehorned down to 20, 10 in each split. It's going to be rather interesting. So I think without further ado, let's head to Split 1 Super Pole here at Mount Panorama.
I've seen people in the chat mention their best times here and how much faster these guys are. I like to think I'm competent at sim racing. I'm not fast by any means, but I know how to drive and I can race people at occasion. There are people in these grids that I do get a race against sometimes. And then I see the fact that we've got low 59s, high 58s. So I'm like, well, I can barely get in the 159s. I used to drive the Mercedes a lot back when the Mercedes in the 2019 tyres and BOP. And at the time, it was probably the 2nd or 3rd best car here in Mount Panorama. And I'd still struggle. I think my best lap is a 1:59.7 ever. That's my best lap. And, I wouldn't have made Super Bowl. I would have really struggled. And that was literally perfect conditions, perfect, track grip. That's all I can do. So the fact that these guys getting into the 58s in the Split 1 is mind-blowing to me. And I don't know if we'll see one now, just because of the nature of the fact that you don't quite have the perfect tyre pressures and, your car's not quite up to temperature by the time you start your lap. And also with that added pressure that's suggesting in your head, maybe, I don't want to push for that perfect lap. I just want to set a really good one. I don't know whether we'll see another 58 here, but a low 59, I think it's going to come.
Well, the first driver out on the 6.213 kilometre Mount Panorama circuit from Griphax Engineering, Jonas Salvalainen in the number 11 Mercedes AMG as... Oh, that looked a bit ropey there. He went straight on. That's one of the things that you can't really do going through the S's and through into the dip coming out of Skyline.
Hopefully for him. Yeah, it still is outlaps. It's not the end of the world.
Thank goodness for that. I nearly had kittens right there. I thought Michael Hamlet, when he was speaking to our ears a bit earlier, he was having kittens anyway. But, Griphax Engineering, very, very competent. I mean, Salvalainen and Kalpinen had an epic comeback after what we had with the most recent round of Sprint Cup Season 3. And that was, they were starting right at the back of the field, and they got up into the top 10 at the end of it. And Sprint Cup will be back once again next time out, this time next week, with myself and David Christie on commentary. But Salvalainen could really, and it's the sole Mercedes in this group as well here, Luke, where you've got 2 Bentleys, 3 Ferraris, 3 Audis, and we've got
really already
49.
That's lap gone.
Oh,
As already, I don't know if he
Thank goodness.
invalidated. It might still get the lap, but that's 3, 4, maybe even 5 tenths that he's just lost in one corner. Just getting a bit too hard on the entry. I think maybe he's not got his tyre pressures up, and it is invalid. So get that confirmed in our ears. So he's not going to be able to set a lap time. That's so unfortunate for Savalainen. But that's just, we're saying how much pressure there is in Superpole. That's case in point right there. That is, these guys are some of the fastest drivers in sim racing, and even they sometimes make mistakes under the pressure. So that's so unfortunate for the 11 car. At least he still gets 10th place. It's not exactly the end of the world for them. It's still top 10 at a track where you can overtake in a car that's very raceable here. The Mercedes is a really good race pace car at this track. It tends to, I said earlier, it usually and most tracks tends to favour quality over race pace, especially in endurance races. But at Bathurst, it's kind of different because the cars that we sort of associate with being fast in qualifying, I'm looking at Audis, the Ferraris, something like even the McLaren could be really good in qualifying here. They really struggle with that stability. I mentioned in real life, you go back to the 2019 Bathurst 12-hour, none of the Audis that started, every single Audi on that grid started in the top 10. None of them finished the race because they all had crashes. We had that in it as well last year in the World Cup with Bathurst 12 hours, where all the Audis had issues. We had obviously the 157 car that is going to be running. I think they qualified right P3. No, they were first, weren't they? What am I talking about? They were first in Q1. They had issues. I think they spun twice and then had a disconnect. That they still finished 11th because Jordan Sherritt was the fastest driver on the grid by a country mile. But they had issues. I remember the Butler Powell guys that were racing in World Cup split one at a time. Both of the cars that they had spins. One was in the chase. I think one was on the mountain as well. So all the Audis just have so much history in races. When you got that high fuel, the added instability that adds to those cars makes them very hard to drive over 12 hours. Whereas something like a Mercedes, something like a Bentley, is going to really improve as the race goes on. It's hardly the end of the world for the 11 car. Obviously, they're going to cross the line and we're not going to get a lap time from them because they got an invalidated. But still, on to Cecilia now, a driver that, obviously the SRO champion coming into this, was a driver that we sort of expected towards the front of the grid. We're a little surprised initially by his pace, but he sets a really good lap right at the end of qualifying. And now is his opportunity to go one better, get beyond P9, and then maybe compete for a pole.
Yeah, very much the case. So Jesus Cecilia going up the hill through Quarry Bend into the second turn. Now it's where the Mercedes doesn't have the agility in comparison with the Audi that's now going through the cutting now into the right-hander at Griffin's Mount, then up through Reed and Solman Park. But the handling characteristics of certain cars really work around here. The Mercedes very good in a straight line, but the Audi, the Ferrari, the Honda, all very good in terms of their mid-engine rear-wheel drive drivetrain property. As you can see that Cecilia just absolutely flies it in at McPhillamy Park, fully committed, going through into Skyline right there and then.
Yeah, it's not an easy track to set lap times out, as we're seeing through all these drivers, but Cecilia's still, I think it's not the end of the world here. Even if he's making small mistakes, I think this lap's still looking pretty respectful, pretty decent. It's not going to be, I don't think this is quite going to be pole. I'm not quite seeing that sort of body language from the car that is going to put it right towards the front of a grid, but I don't think this is going to be the worst lap in the world, let's put it that way.
Yeah, very much the case. Jesus Cecilia now makes his way through into the chase. And next up we'll have the number 21 WPS racing team that had Daniel Schoeninger behind the wheel in the first part of qualifying. So at the minute, no benchmark set yet, but Cecilia will do so going through into the final corner. Through Murray's he comes. And across the line, the Audi 1:59.622 from the number 121. And now it's Schoeninger to see what he can pull out of the bag with that Audi as he starts his hot lap here at Mount Panorama.
Well, I was saying that with Cecilia's lap, I didn't quite feel the pole lap time in the way he was driving. It kind of felt like to me he wasn't quite getting it perfect. It was a little bit understeer here, a little bit of oversteer there. It didn't quite feel like a lap that I was expecting to be at the front. And it's still a 59.6. Maybe I have to eat my words there, because that was a pretty great lap time in the end by Cecilia. But we know in qualifying we were in the 58s right at the front. I don't know whether we'll get there again, but I think there's going to be some low 59s, so I expect Sicily is going to drop back as we progress through the field. Those Ferraris were looking rapid, and also that 157 Audi, I think it's going to be if any driver is going to set a 58 in qualifying, it's going to be the 157. This 21 car, Schoeninger's looked pretty fast so far. He's obviously 8th place in qualifying. It's looking pretty decent so far. He's putting the car in the right places. There's no real overdriving, no slides yet, no understeer, no oversteer. It just looks like he's got it where he wants it to be here. McPhillamy is looking pretty good. Gets right out onto that exit curb, and now commitment to Skyline. Get onto that curb on the inside, but don't unsettle your car. It's pretty nice. He keeps it to that inside wall of the dipper as well. Doesn't understeer too much. He uses the understeer to keep the car stable as he gets onto the throttle, but he doesn't get too much that it puts himself into the wall. So looking pretty good so far. We tuck the car in nicely through Forest Elbow. Get a decent exit here. I think this lap is looking pretty good from the 21 car.
Yeah, the 5.2 litre V10 naturally aspirated mid-engined car making its way down towards the chase. So Dennis Schoeninger from WPS Racing Team, the third out of 10 cars competing for pole position here in split 1. So nice and cleanly done there by the Audi. Runs a little bit wide, but doesn't go off track limits. Going through the exit of the chase into the left-hander at Murray's. Runs the car out wide, not too much curb taken. Across the line, 1 minute 59.457. Now, we did see that the 157 from GTWR, Tobias Pfeffer, put in a 158.9 in the first session. Now, obviously, the track temperature has increased a couple of degrees in the meantime, as now our favourite Iranian here, Amir Hosseini in the 777 Bentley now starts his hot lap. And Hosseini was, we normally see him in rather different machinery, we do, but now in with the Bentley boys, so to speak, the fictional Bentley boys here, as he goes through Hell Corner. Amir Hosseini has shown that his adaptability here on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform, and here's no different, going straight into a Bentley for the World Cup. Obviously they've had some training beforehand and getting some hours behind the wheel of the Sims, but Amir has always been naturally quick.
Yeah, he is a driver that you just throw in anything and he's ridiculous. I remember in the Porsche Cup event we had, in the Cup car, he was rapid, and then he comes to GT3 and he's rapid. You put him in a GT4, what is he? He's rapid. Now he's in a new car that he doesn't race that often in the Bentley, but this is it's one of my favourites. If you're listing GT3 cars in terms of most fun to drive, the Bentley's pretty high, because it's a nice little platform to drive on, and obviously you get the ascended left-hand drive, which is right-hand drive, ascended right-hand drive. I'm on the left-hand side of the road. Apparently I'm getting tired, but the 777's looking pretty fast here. He's nice and committed. We are sort of expecting that it's not going to quite have the quality pace of Audis, Ferraris maybe, because this thing, the Bentley car, with the platform it is, the sort of low fuel, the good fuel mileage it has, and the stability it brings as a car platform, you're expecting this thing to be really good at race pace. That is where it excels, and that is where in real life it is actually won. It won Bathurst, right? Was it 2018? I think it won, or 2017. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's won here before in real life. And it did so because it's just that stable platform. A platform is very hard to make a mistake in the car, because the car really protects you as you're trying to push. We were talking to Simonini earlier, where he spoke about that Aston Martin being a slightly safer car. Yeah. Well, if you like safety in sort of car design, Bentley's pretty high up. 2019, that was it. Thank you, Vilo.
It was 2020 that the Bentley won. It was Bentley Team M Sport.
Yeah, won 2019
Maxime
as well,
Soulet. No, it was actually the Porsche for Earl Bamber Motorsport. So you had Dirk Werner, Dennis Olsen and Matt Campbell winning in the Porsche night. But also one of the other things is that one of the real-life coaches on Coach Dave Academy, Jordan Pepper, was behind the wheel of the Bentley Continental GT3 that won at Mount Panorama in the 12 hours alongside Maxime Soulet and Jules Gounod. So the Bentley has won around here. Well, Mercedes did actually win back here. I retract my previous statement. It was back in 2013 with Thomas Jäger, Alexander Orloff, and the legend from DTM himself, and also a veteran behind the wheel of sports cars, Bernd Schneider. Ferrari's won this in the hands of Craig Lowndes, Peter Edwards, Mika Salo and John Bowe back in 2014, Alvaro Parent, Jonathan Webb and Shane Van Gisbergen for Techno Autosports back in 2016, and that was with the 650S, not the 720S McLaren. Lowndes has won it twice actually in the last 7 years. Won it back in 2017 alongside a long-time Ferrari Works GT driver Tony Villander from Finland. Audi won it back in 2018, and this to have two Bentleys here, and
2 years.
just is absolutely, he's on rails in this Bentley. I mean, Hosseini was within 9 100ths off of Schoeninger, who's put provisional pole into there. It's just dependent on how, and the Boatley wording has already started blowing up in the chat. Thank you very much to those that have decided to do that.
If it's a boat,
there'll be more.
Because it's looking fast. It's looking right. I mean, Hosseini's lap. I was saying that this car favours the race pace over the quali pace. Well, if the quali pace is second place, and the 111's looking pretty fast as well. If the Bentleys are going to be right towards the front in qualifying, they've both got a solid chance of winning in the race. And this is a really good lap for the 111. It's been nice and committed. He's not really made any mistakes so far. Let's see what he can do. Can he get pole? Yes, he can. 59.2, 0.16 ahead of Schoeninger. Those Bentleys are looking mighty far.
Okay, now we've got to keep an eye on Yaz Heat with Mikhail Statsenko in the 720. Interesting question. Interesting question by Bloodwolf. Did Aston ever win at Bathurst? Since the inauguration of the 12 hours, no. It has never won it. The brands that have won it: Bentley, Porsche, Audi, Ferrari, McLaren, Nissan, Mercedes, BMW have won it twice in the 335i's, first in 2007 and then in 2010. And also Mitsubishi won it back in 2008 and 2009. It was with the Lancer Evo 9 in 2008, and then 2009 it was the Evo 10, and it was the Team Mitsubishi Rally Up Australia crew that completed 239 laps. But in the current modern era, the Bentley completed the most laps in recorded Bathurst 12-hour history, with a total of 314 laps, covering just over 1,950 kilometres. Statsenko absolutely on rails in this 720, throwing it through McPhillamy, now down into Skyline, through into the S's. And Aston Martin did take pole position with R Motorsport back in 2019, courtesy of Jake Dennis, who now races in Formula E. But Statsenko, ultra committed, now going as tight towards the wall, lets the car run to the right hand side, doesn't graze the barrier coming out of Forest Elbow, and in many respects that is a pretty hot lap there from Yaz Heat's Mikhail Statsenko.
Yeah, honestly, with Aston, the only sort of Bathurst moment I can remember, obviously bar that pole they had in 2019, was really the big crash last year. The massive crash they had through Solomon Park, where the Aston pretty much did a backflip as they tried to mount the wall. But it is one of those tracks where, for me, it's up there with your Nordschleifers, your Spa 24 Hours, where for GT cars this is such a difficult and such a prestigious race to win. Even in the sim world, I think it's pretty awesome. And Statsenko doesn't quite get the pole, puts it P3, but we've got 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 right now, and I think those Ferraris are fixing to make it 4. But we come back to Bathurst. It is one of those tracks where the sort of the pedigree of winning it is up there with those big events. It is one of those tracks where everyone wants to win. That's why we saw Bentley and Nissan commit for so long to try and win. Obviously, Nissan had the Godzilla car, the famous Bathurst 12-hour winner. But Bentley, they took ages to win it, and then they came with the new Continental, the one that obviously we're racing here, absolutely nailed it. And that car was so fast, and finally got them the win. But we've seen the same with Audi trying to get another win on the board, and that's why their car, in 2019, 2020 has been very unstable. But it's also why it's very, very fast in ACC, because the real world and the sim world, well, they're getting closer and closer, and sort of the BOP and the balance of these cars and the pace of these cars, well, it's pretty similar to the real life right now.
Yeah, Audi's only won it 3 times, back in 2011, 2012 But in the main bigger picture of things, Luca Lozio now in the 27 Ferrari, making his way through into Solman and McPhillamy, now down the dip into Skyline, into the S's, and you can just see how close it is to the walls here, going through the dipper, now into the run into Forest Elbow. Tighter line taken through into the entrance again, letting the car drift wide to the right, but not glancing with the barrier on the right hand side. That's one thing you definitely don't want to do, especially in a mid-engined rear-wheel drive car, because that could unsettle it. I mean, obviously the first person that hasn't had the greatest lap around, well, we've had two cars, obviously Tavanari and Salvalainen, both having disasters, one having a spin going through towards Skyline, and the other one invalidating their lap within a couple of corners of getting into there. But now Luca Lozio, where can he factor in? 6 laps have been completed, one without a lap time, and has already been invalidated. But Luca Lozio from Jean Alesi goes P2 within 54 thousandths of a second. Oh, that was close. And now we've got Michele Nerbi in one of the GTWR cars. This is now, we've got a string of cars, the 91 and the 32, that's Nerbi and Benedetti, will be, and then you got the Audi. So I think that Giorgio Simonini has is showing is the driver that's going to go into that car, but whether they're going to put Tobias Pfeffer is another question altogether, because Pfeffer has been like absolute dynamite in that first qualifying session.
I think it's so normally when you cross the first sector it changes back, because I think it's driver 1 that will show, so it should be Pfeffer still in the car. It will change as soon as he gets into it, but we saw that Nerbi got a little bit wide on turn 1, not quite as wide as Savalainen did, but this lap's not been too good, and he's going to get wide in cutting here as well. This lap's just not quite there for Nerbi. It just feels like he's overdriving right now, maybe pushing the car a little bit too far in every corner. It's not quite been right. He's losing a lot of time, but I was saying at the start of this that we wouldn't get to the 58s, but it kind of looks now that maybe a 58 will be needed to get onto pole, because I'm expecting, the 91 here is kind of, I don't want to say ruined, but sort of chalked the lap a little bit, because in the first few corners they made separate mistakes. The first sector was just not quite there. Even if these next two sectors are good, they're going to struggle to even set, I think, a mid-59. So it's a little bit unfortunate for the 91 car, but they can still set a lap time here, and you have to remember that if either of the two drivers are about to come up, the 32 of the 157 makes a little mistake somewhere else, maybe the 91 can still beat them.
Yeah, I think it's a case of rolling the dice and see how things pan out, because you never know in qualifying what might occur as Michele Nerbi now makes his way down towards the chase and deep into the braking zone, scrubbing over 160 kilometres an hour of speed from that Ferrari into the left-hander, now into the right. One more corner to negotiate, and we have got the number 32 now out on track. That's the GTWR Racing Team number 3 car, but Michele Nerbi goes across the line, missing the apex a little bit. P7. Oh, that's a bit of a hard pill to swallow there. But now Chris Hartveld from the Netherlands in the number 32 for GTWR Racing Team 3, and then we'll have the defending champions out next. So
it's amazing that he can make so many small mistakes. Make so many small mistakes across his lap and do a 59.9. So, it blows my mind how fast these guys are.
It's incredible just by what we saw in both qualifying session, both initial qualifying sessions. 20 minutes where it's not the greatest amount of time, but you've got to make it count, and especially when the first session of the season for quali, it's under the darkness of night, 5 o'clock in the morning. The sunrise is starting to come up now. Track's at optimum, further 2 degrees Celsius since we started Superpole, as Chris Hartveld now makes his way through into the cutting before the right-hander at Griffin's Mount, now through into Reed Park, then before the double left sweepers at Solman and McPhillamy. It's looking rather neat and tidy from Mr. Hartveld so far, wouldn't you agree, Luke?
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. He's putting the car where it needs to be. A little bit of tap of the wall there through Solman's. As soon as I say it's looking pretty good, I seem to be on form with my curses tonight, but it shouldn't be hurting too much. He might lose maybe half a tenth. Oh, but he's wide in Skyline. He's going to hit the wall hard. And that's it gone. That is Harteveld out. He's going to be P9 because of Savalainen's invalidation. But, that was a hefty hit. And he's lucky that it's the sim world, because in the real life, that would have been very expensive.
Yeah, invoice sent by email right there and then. I think there's a few Fs in the chat as well as a result of that. But, that's how hard these drivers are pushing. They all want to take the title this season. And we know, you and I both know here, Luke, is that it is a marathon, not a sprint. You try and tell drivers for 84 hours you've got to keep your noses clean. That is never going to happen, not on a month of Sundays. But a real shame for Chris Harteveld. But it is going to be Tobias Pfeffer that is going to be back behind the wheel of the 157 Audi. The time to beat, as we see Chris Harteveld, he's decided to pull it into the pit lane. The defending, reigning champions for Season 1 of the World Cup here on the sim grid. Tobias, this is the last car to go out for Super Pole, and Tobias Pfeffer has got it all to do. He's got all the pressure on his shoulders, but I think possibly with the dynamite performance, he was over nearly 4 tenths quicker than the 111's time actually in the previous session. But now Pfeffer's got to really, really do his level best, make no mistakes. That's what you've got to do on this lap, as that's very neat and tidy coming out of Hell Corner.
It's not quite on the apex though. There's a little bit of camber on the inside of turn 1. But you have to really tuck your left side tyre in. He just about missed it. I don't think it will hurt too much, but that's sort of like a half a tenth kind of thing. The other two GTWR cars, the 91 and the 32 car, both of them making mistakes. Turn 2 is looking better here from Pfeffer. He tucks his car nicely, gets wide on the exit, uses all that track that he has, cutting blind faith through the first left-hander, commits to the line, now braking hard. Can he get all the way to the wall on the inside? It's looking pretty good, gets wide on the exit, early on the throttle, and there's no wheel spin. I think that's pretty good for Pfeffer so far. Flat out through the right and the left here of Reed Park. He's looking decent, doesn't get too wide on that wall, doesn't scrub off time with the slide. Salmon Park next, touch that curb on the inside, get onto that curb on the exit, straighten the car. Look, Kyalami, throw the car in. Don't touch that inside curb because it will unsettle your car so much. Skyline another corner where you just lob your car in and hope for the best. Inside curb, don't get too wide here for part 1 of the dipper. Part 2, early on the throttle, he's a little bit wide out of the corner, but I don't think will hurt his lap time. Forest elbow here, braking with that line on the right, down to first gear, tuck the car in. Can he get early on the throttle? He's a little bit wide on exit. I think that might cost him some time. The lap is still pretty good though. He's looking pretty fast through the corners. A couple turns to go. The chase after Conrad straight here. It's going to be critical for this lap time. He has to be so committed, but he doesn't want to get that slide on the rear, because as soon as you slide your car coming out of the chase, you lose about a tenth and a half. Touch that inside curb once you brake just after the 150 meter board. Touch the curb early on throttle. Don't touch that exit curb because it will spin your tyres up. It's looking pretty decent here from Pfeffer. It's going to be right towards the front. I don't know if it's good enough to beat Blair, but it's going to be quite close. One more corner to go. Miss the inside curb, get wide on the exit, use that curb to straighten up the car, get back on throttle quickly, and it goes pole by 0.069 of a second. Tobias Pfeffer takes pole for round 1 of SimGrid World Cup at Bathurst.
Wow, the defending champions get themselves onto the best foot forward possible thanks to one Tobias Pfeffer.
I'm out of breath.
By 69 thousandths. Well, you were talking all the way through that hot lap. I don't. But that was brilliant. I mean, to be honest with you, 8 out of the top 10 in Super Pro in the top split. Not able to make set a lap time, Chris Harteveld and Jonas Savalainen, but Tobias Pfeffer getting GTWR Racing Team number 1. That is the 157, the defending champions in the Audi, on the best foot forward for what is going to be a fantastic season opener for the second season of SimGrid World Cup, this time powered by VCO. I'm absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, I'm unfortunately not able to take part in the commentary, but I'm sure that when I get a chance, the opening race will definitely be on my radar at some particular point, because I think this is just completely mouth-watering. What we've had tonight has just given us a taster of what's to come on Saturday, Luke.
Yeah, when you have a grid this close, with the track selection that we have in probably the best sim available, with prizes from some great sponsors, AK Informatica, Coach Dave Academy, Toastmaster, and so on, with support from people like SimGrid and VCO, you've got all the ingredients for a pretty incredible series. I think that's what we're seeing in the qualifying. You start off with an incredible qualifying, Q1 for both splits, then Super Pole, there's drama, there's spins, there's people that perhaps we didn't expect it to be in Super Pole. With the Porsche in split 2 was pretty impressive to see. But then the usual, the reigning champions put themselves on pole for split 1 for the first race of the season, the track that came and bit them and almost costed them their championship last time out. It was perfect this time around for them. Puts themselves on pole. Pfeffer with a really good lap. It wasn't quite his qualifying lap in Q1, but we were expecting that because of the sort of the changes he had with Super Pole. But when it all counted, when the pressure was there, he put his car where he needed to.
Yeah, very much the case. I mean, that was an epic lap from Tobias Pfeffer. I'm absolutely speechless. And for the last few moments and stuff like that, it's been absolutely epic. Just the way that these teams have been throwing these cars around. I'm just in absolute awe of their skill sets, and every single one of them. Everyone deserves an opportunity to be in the top 10, but for the defending champions to kickstart season 2 like they have here, Luke, it's just been immense.
Yeah, it's the pedigree of drivers. There's drivers that didn't qualify for this that I would usually expect to be to the front in your average race. So that's just the pure pedigree. But I think now we're going to have some interviews, I would assume, from both split 1 and split 2, I believe. We're going to have... Oh, no, it's just split 1 we're doing interviews with, sorry, to check that one. But I think we're going to have a quick confirmation of the split 2 times. We could get them up, Mike, so we could run through them quickly and we could look at our top 10. Will be awesome. They're going to come up in a second, I promise you. We'll do a little... I'll wave my hands at the screen until it happens. But Mike's getting them up for us.
Don't start doing your... Yeah, don't start doing your abracadabra trick now, Luke. Come on.
I've cast the curse to the commentary now. First off, I was doing it to the drivers. Now I'm doing it to Mike, our lovely producer. Been putting on some pretty great shows so far, but now making it hard for putting all the pressure on as us. There's the times. This is split 1 here. We see the top 10 of Super Bowl with Savalainen obviously not being able to put his lap in, and Harteveld as well having that incident.
Yeah, the top 8 covered by just under 7 tenths. Tobias Pfeffer, Giorgio Simonini, and Jordan Sherratt, go into Saturday with a bag full of confidence. That's the way that defending champions would want to start their way. You've then got the DV1 Triton Bentley Continental GT3 car, the 111. Just 69 thousandths behind Luca Lozio from John and Lacey Esports Academy in the 27. Just over a tenth separating the top 3. Daniel Schoeninger from WPS in the Audi, just over 2 tenths adrift. Then Statsenko with Murphy, Capocci and Honzik for Yas Heat. They round out the top 5. Amir Hosseini. Yeah. Well, let's see if we can bring in a couple of the people from split 1. Looks like from GTWR, the defending champions for the 157, we'll have Jordan Sherratt. So let's see if we can bring Jordan in first of all. Good evening to Jordan Sherratt, one of the other members of GTWR, the defending champions. Jordan, firstly, congratulations to the team for getting pole position for Bathurst for Saturday, but Tobias was on absolute fire, and getting it right when he needed to was definitely a good call that you guys stuck with the Audi for season 2.
Yeah, exactly. Tobias today was just I must say, he's he's only 16, right? Can you believe that? Mm-hmm. And he is just on some crazy level. Like today he was just on fire. So yeah, he dealt with pressure. His last lap in the Super Bowl was okay-ish. He was it wasn't great, but we still got it done, and I think that's what matters. And obviously it's the best position to start at this track, of course, because we lead the race and determine how it goes. So yeah, it's a great way to start, and a great way to start, I guess, defending our title, right?
And last season...
Yeah, definitely the case.
Sorry, Alex. Last season here at the World Cup, we had the Bathurst race, and you were really in a league of your own with your pace. You were, at times, nearly half a second faster than the rest of the grid. But you also had those disconnects, to kind of ruin your race. And at times we were expecting you to win the race, and then you finished outside the top 10. Is it sort of a feeling of redemption tonight, and obviously on Saturday, where this race will mean a lot more to you if you can win it?
I think yes and no. I think we always try and do our best no matter what, and disconnects are just part of sim racing. So, for everyone who's driving, that's just a thing. So, but yeah, I mean, talking about GTWR, we've literally been practicing every single day for the last week, and it literally showed this qualifying and obviously the race. So, yeah, hard work obviously pays off, and that's all it is, really.
Practice makes perfect, and I think with that lap time you weren't far off.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jordan, thank you very much for joining us here at the end of qualifying for round 1 of SimGrid World Cup Season 2 powered by VCO. All the very best of luck to you, Tobias, and Mr. Simonini going into Saturday.
Thank you so much, and thanks to you guys for putting on a great show as always, and thanks to the sponsors of the series. Obviously, without them, we wouldn't have this, so GG to them.
Okay, big thank you there to Jordan Sherritt. We'll try and get some other people in as well. I'm just trying to... There's so many names on this list, Luke. I'm sort of stumbling a little bit here, but it is one of those things, isn't it, where you've...
Got our split 2 times up on the board here, which, you look at that, we were saying how, at the start, people didn't even realise it was split 2 when we were in Q1 because they were so fast. But we see these times and you think, well, actually, pretty much everyone in that split 2 Super Bowl was faster as well. We had a couple, I think there were 2 drivers that wouldn't have been pole in split 2, but still some really awesome lap times from these guys. They had slightly worse conditions as well, which I will say for them. Mm-hmm. We'll let them out a little bit and give them a bit of slack because the track was slightly less rubbered in split 2's split 2 server compared to split 1. So we were expecting a couple tenths slower, but there's still some awesome lap times from some, I think, drivers perhaps we're not necessarily used to seeing. There's a couple in there. Tavanari, obviously the driver that spun, was a driver that we historically have seen in split 1s of series. Same with Schumacher. Both those drivers have a bit of a name for themselves now in SimGrid, but I think the rest of this top 10, most of them are, at least to me, fairly new names.
Yeah, very much the case. I think what we can do, let's try and see if we can bring in another person from Split 1. This time it's actually the 111 DV1 Triton Racing. We're going to bring in Mateusz Tiskowicz in very shortly. So, Mateusz, good evening. Good to have you with us here in the interview booth. Obviously, very, very close indeed for Split 1 qualifying for pole position, as Dominic did a fantastic job. How are you guys feeling going into Saturday for the first round of Season 2 of World Cup?
To be honest, we didn't expect that we'll be on P2. I think that Dominic made an awesome job, and I don't know what to say because it's amazing for us. It's our first event in ACC, first big event, so we want to give our best, and we want to win the race.
Yeah, I completely understand that, but obviously the Bentley has got good pedigree around here at Bathurst. How do you fancy your chances, for Saturday? It's going to be a very difficult fight. 12 hours, a very demanding circuit. 3 kilometers of it is straight line, and the rest of it is very, very technical and very, very, very much handling based. How are you guys feeling? Obviously nerves is one thing, but then do you think that the Bentley can give you the confidence to go for the victory or maybe even secure a podium after round 1?
I think that Bentley is a very good choice to endurance race because it consumes less fuel than Audi or Mercedes, for example, and it's pretty easy to drive. So I think we have pretty big chances on Saturday.
Okay, well, Mateos, all the very best of luck for round 1 here at Mount Panorama, and also to you and the rest of the team at DV1 Triton.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll bring in one final person in for an interview. Another one from Split 1. Let's bring in Jean Alesi Esports Academy's Kamil Pawlowski, who's part of the crew with the 27. Kamil, good evening. Very, very tough qualifying for Split 1, with Luca Lozio getting you guys to within a tenth and a half of Tobias Pfeffer and the GTWR team, who are the reigning and defending champions. The Ferrari looking very strong around here at Mount Panorama. How do you and the rest of the team fancy your chances for Saturday?
Yeah, first of all, big congrats to our top guy who made us start on the P3 on Saturday. I don't know if you know, but this young man just turned 15 years old a couple of days ago. So I'm pretty sure he's the youngest driver on the grid. So he's a very young and very promising talent. And he did a really good job in quali. So we're really looking forward for the race. We prepared as much as we could. So the good strategy is there, and yeah, what else to say? Let's see what we can bring on this lovely race.
Yeah, I think that makes it 2 drivers either aged 15 or 16 in the top 3 going in Split 1. That is incredibly impressive. But I think you guys at Jean Alesi Esports Academy, the Ferrari with its mid-engined rear-wheel drive platform is very, very good. But also with that twin-turbo V8, it has a lot of torque, going down the straightaways, down the main back straightaway through into turns 20, 21 and 22. The Ferrari's also got that nice blend of handling, but also straight line speed, and that could play to your advantages come Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. But looking at the other side, it's all about the tactics and strategy of efficient fuel usage. And as we know, we have limited tires for the entire race. So the race will be very, very interesting, I think, because it will be very hard to judge on the start or even in half of the race to predict where we could finish our other guys, because everything can happen, especially with different strategies of other guys and ours. But yeah, we'll definitely use all the advantages that Ferrari can give us for the race, and we're really looking forward to bring a great result for this race.
Well, Kamil Pawlowski from Jean Alesi Esports Academy P3, courtesy of Luca Lozio this time around. All the very best of luck to you guys on Saturday for round 1 of the season.
Thank you very much.
Well, that really sums up how the World Cup Season 2, powered by VCO, is going to turn out. Luke, it has been a fantastic evening of qualifying action, but the race truly gets underway at noon British Summer Time. That's 1 p.m. Central European Summer Time. This in just 2 days' time. I can't believe I'm saying it. It's not that far away that round 1 kicks off 84 hours. That's just over 5,000 minutes of racing, and it's going to be dog eat dog out there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I said I was out of breath at the end of Super Bowl. I've got to get through 4 hours, and obviously our broadcasting, they've got to get through 12 hours of this race. If the drama is anything like Super Bowl was, or anything like even Q1 was, because Q1 was awesome, then we're going to be in a pretty great place, I think, by the end of Saturday, coming into Sunday morning, because we're going to have one heck of a show on the board.
Yeah, that really is about it from us here on Thursday evening here on the Sim Grid. The World Cup Season 2, powered by VCO, aka the Virtual Competition Organisation. A big thank you also to our other partners as well, Coach Dave Academy, Thrustmaster, as well as our very good friends at AK Informatica, with over $25,000 of not just prize money, but prizes up for grabs. It all kicks off 11:40 a.m, 12:40 Central. That's BST, 12:40 Central European Time. This coming Saturday, it will be time to let them loose here at this fantastic 6.213 kilometre circuit. Don't forget to follow us all on social media channels on the SimGrid for both Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also like and subscribe to this channel and also hit the thumbs up button. Round 1 of Season 2 SimGrid World Cup, powered by VCO, starts at 11:40 British Summer Time, 12:40 Central European Time this coming Saturday. That's it from me, Alex Goldschmidt, and it's also goodbye from Luke Rogers. Luke, it's been a pleasure once again working alongside you, and bring on Saturday.
I can't wait.
We'll see you all then, folks.